Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. Naruto had always thought his team, and those around him had cared about him all these years. Naruto had thought wrong, dead wrong when that day came. Naruto was now 18 years old, and it was 3 years since Sasuke had returned to the village with him, badly beaten of course, after killing his brother Itachi Uchiha. Naruto opened his azure blue eyes to peer up at the ceiling of his tiny apartment. The sunlight was peeking in through the blinds as he let out a yawn. He had a restful slumber the night before, and suddenly he realized today was the day he would tell Sakura-chan his true feelings. He figured after all these years, today was a good enough day to tell her that he loved her. Yata! Naruto shouted out happily as he quickly sat up in his bed, and kicked off the covers of his bed with one foot as he practically jumped out of bed. Removing his cute nightcap, and the rest of his clothing, revealing his muscled chest and stomach. Naruto was a full adult now. The years of training to be a shinobi had left many scars as well as made him well-toned. Quickly Naruto hopped into the shower to clean himself up, which took 15 minutes. He threw on a black t-shirt, a clean pair of orange slacks and his usual favorite black and orange jacket. He then peered down at the necklace that was around his neck. Old Lady Tsunade had given him during his genin days. Naruto was now a Junin-ranked ninja, along with Sakura, Sasuke, Hinata, Kiba, Shino, Sai, and the rest of the gang as well. Though Neji and his team, when Tenten and Lee had become Junin, had all become Anbu probably as soon as the two did. Naruto then placed his Junin vest over his orange and black jacket, combed his blonde spiked hair and quickly grabbed something to eat before running out the door of his apartment and locking up. Naruto then adjusted his headband around his forehead, having left it in a pocket of his Junin vest and mumbling, "Alright, today is the big day. Where I, Uzumaki Naruto finally tell Sakura, the girl of my dreams, how much I really love her." He then quickly raced into the village to find Sakura. Little did he know when he finally found her that his heart would break into very tiny little pieces at the sight he saw before him, 30 minutes after searching for her. He had went to their usual training grounds, that the rest of his team always met up at, just for the fun of training, even though they were all Junin now, and had their own things to do. Sakura having her own squad of genin to teach, while Sasuke was attempting to start up a police force in Konohagakure with the help of a few members of the Hyuga, Inuzuka and another clan known as the Kigemaru clans. Naruto's ears perked up when he heard a strange sound coming from the training ground. It sounded like someone was either crying or moaning in pain. Naruto growled softly as he quickly drew a kunai blade, ready to strike the person down whoever was causing the person pain, because he had also recognized who it was making those noises. It was Sakura. Naruto was about to jump out and yell at the person causing Sakura pain to get the hell off her or whatever, when he saw who it was with her, and that the person wasn't causing her pain, more like pleasure. Sasuke Uchiha. Naruto gawked as he saw Sakura totally nude and pushed up against a tree trunk, deeply in the throes of getting it really good by Sasuke, who apparently was still wearing his shirt, but no pants at this very moment. Tears sprang into Naruto's eyes as he watched. After all this time, he thought that Sakura had feelings for him. He felt used. All that time he had spent trying to save Sasuke from himself, was all for really her benefit. He suddenly heard Sakura cry out, "Oh God! Don't stop, Sasuke! Please don't stop!" He then heard Sasuke mutter something to her as they continued their lovemaking session. Something in his chest started to throb. Naruto looked down at the ground as the tears poured down his whiskered cheeks. He had to get out of there, before they caught him. Clenching his chest with a hand he quickly took off. The tears continued pouring down his reddened cheeks. He was in pain, so much pain now. He would have to make an excuse to Sasuke and Sakura later, why he hadn't shown up for training. Maybe he could just say he hadn't been feeling well. He had a feeling today would be much worse than walking in on two of his best friends, one of them that he had loved deeply all these years, having with each other. Now he knew that no one would love him, after what he had seen today. Suddenly he ran into Shikamaru and Choji, who were talking to each other down the path. Shikamaru almost shouted in annoyance when Naruto accidentally knocked down the 18-year-old, who was happily married to apparently Gaara's older sister, Temari. "Watch where you're going. God, you idiot," said Shikamaru as he rubbed the area that had begun to hurt after falling on his backside from being knocked over. Naruto looked up at Shikamaru sadly and said as he got to his feet, "Sorry, forgive me." He then without another word continued running off, past the two of them. Shikamaru blinked. Why was Naruto crying right now? He never did that before. Man, what a drag, I bet you anything. Naruto just saw Sasuke and Sakura having one of their sessions again. Choji looked sort of concernedly towards Naruto's retreating back, shaking his red-haired head as he munched on a few chips as he spoke. Poor Naruto, he told me he wanted to confess his feelings to Sakura the other day, and today I think was the day he was going to do it. Shikamaru looked at Choji after getting back to his feet without any help, and shook his head, and stared up at the clouds. Man, this can't get any worse. Anyway, you should be worrying about your pregnant wife. Hato right now, Choji. Naruto will get over it. He always does, just look at him. He went through 12 years of suffering at the abuse of this village, after all. Shikamaru and Choji along with the rest of the Konoha 11 had found out why all these years Naruto always seemed to have all this excess chakra inside of him. Choji shrugged, I don't think he will pull through this time. I mean, he loved Sakura a lot. It was pretty obvious during the time Akatsuki was still around. He would go over the edge just to help bring Sasuke back to make her happy. But now look at him. Anyway, Hato's fine. Lately she's been having a lot of cravings for weird foods that she normally doesn't eat. Shikamaru nodded, and then even though he didn't care, he himself was already a father of a little girl and a boy, who were 2 years old now. Tamari had blessed him with fraternal twins, had asked him, how long until the exciting day? She told me 2 more months until the little one is ready to pop out. I'm excited to be a dad as she is to be a mom. Shikamaru awarded his best friend a lazy grin and patted his shoulder. I'm happy for you, man. He then muttered, Naruto, I hope you do pull out of this one. I'd hate to see what would happen to you if you finally just snapped. Naruto slumped against a wall, clutching his aching chest. He had found out the ache in his chest was really his heart that he felt had shattered into many tiny pieces after seeing Sasuke and Sakura together the way he had seen. No one was left, he had no one left it seemed, that would love him. Gobs of tears continued to pour down the Kyuubi container's cheeks. Why couldn't he stop crying? It was normal, sooner or later Sakura would end up with Sasuke, and it was fate's cruel way of telling him that he was never meant to be loved, only to face pain and tragic suffering, right? Suddenly a soft voice spoke up, Naruto-kun, what is the matter? No guys, it's not Hinata-chan, hehehe. It's actually Hato Kigemaru. Naruto had thought the voice was coming from Hinata, but as soon as his azure blue eyes turned, they were met with violet-colored ones. It was his new best friend Hato Kigemaru, standing there, dressed in what looked to be in a ninja maternity dark navy blue top that left her back exposed, and navy blue pants. Her stomach was 7 months swollen with child. That much could be seen as Naruto looked at the raven-haired girl before finally speaking. Hato-chan, shouldn't you be at home? I mean, Choji will have a fit and all. He was trying to hide his pain even from the Kigemaru, who he had faced in his second time Chunin exam. A woman that he would have probably ended up with, if he hadn't hurt her emotionally and physically during his second time doing the Chunin exams. She had been pretty fierce kunoichi back then, and probably still was. She had revealed to him that she was the possessor of a rare and special Kekkei Genkei, said to put the Uchiha clan's affinity for fire jutsus to shame, which had piqued Sasuke's interest, when he had returned to Konohagakure, into the fact he had wanted to challenge the Kigemaru to a small sparring match, which ended in Hato's small victory, due to the fact that Sasuke was more of a lightning user now, than he was a fire user. And also the fact that Hato's Kekkei Genkei had a special mirror reflection jutsu added to the dojutsu's many unique traits, which even Sharingan could not get through in order to copy Hato's fire jutsus. Another thing to add to this, was the fact, it was believed that Hato's clan Kekkei Genkei was a cross between the Hyuga Byakugan and the Uchiha Sharingan, in the case of the mirror reflection jutsu, and the fact Hato could see through walls and certain objects to detect heat signatures of enemy ninja. The mirror reflection part came from the Sharingan and the looking through objects and walls came from Byakugan basically. This shall all be clarified in the next fanfiction I will be writing. Hato had a small frown on her pale lips as she could read his emotions through his eyes. The fire-using princess was not stupid, she knew he was in pain, after all she had become his best friend, and that was how she sort of had met her husband as well. A hand was placed upon her swollen belly as she spoke. Naruto-kun, I know you better than that. I'm sure your friends know you better than that. You can talk to me, you know, I am your best friend. At least one of them, I hope. She watched him intently with those violet eyes that looked oh so similar to the Hyuga clan eyes that Naruto had seen and faced off against when he was 12 years old. Naruto tried to give her a fake smile, but knew inside he wasn't really smiling. He then spoke as he pointed a thumb to her belly. So how's Choji taking the news that he's going to be a dad soon? He was attempting to change the subject, knowing full well, Hato was probably not buying this sudden change in subject. Hato sighed and then smiled. He's taking it quite well. It won't be long now, 2 months, Tsunade-sama said, before there'll be a little Choji running around. She giggled after this. Who would have thought that the 16-year-old Hato would end up being Choji's one and only true love in the end? The girl had been 13 years old when Naruto had gone up against the fire-using genius, who had freaked Naruto out with her affinity for summoning foxes as well as being able to use one of Sasuke's own fire jutsus on him, as well as her skills in kenjutsu, art of swordsmanship. Naruto chuckled as best as he could. He was happy Hato was happy. The girl was beautiful and Naruto knew she had a good heart. She hadn't cared if Choji had been a fat ass or not. What counted was that Choji and her were in love, and had even, as soon as Hato was the age of consent, which apparently is 15, don't quote me on this, and with her parents' permission, had got married to Choji, right after the Akatsuki had all been wiped out, and apparently after the birth of Temari's and Shikamaru's twin children as well. Naruto then spoke up. Hey, is the little guy kicking in there right now? He always loved to be able to touch Hato's stomach, ever since she and Choji had told him that Hato was pregnant with Choji's child. Hato then felt with her hand, yes, right where my hand is right now. She grabbed Naruto's hand and placed it on the area her hand had just been on. Naruto grinned when he felt the child inside of her growing stomach kick its mother pretty damn hard. Whoa, he's definitely going to be like his mother, real feisty one. I hope he don't turn into a fat ass like his dad, TTEBYO. Ow. Hato had swatted him upside the head for the comment about her husband being fat. He is not fat, he's big boned, and lately he's been losing weight, which is pretty good, considering, said a slightly angered and overly hormonal Hato, who looked ready to punch Naruto out if he said anything demeaning about her beloved one again. Naruto inched away from her slightly, scared from the look Hato was giving him. If it was one thing Naruto did not want to do, was piss off the fire princess in front of him, especially when she was also overly hormonal at this crucial time in her pregnancy. Aye, Gomen Nasai Hato-chan. I meant that only as a joke. He gave her a silly yet frightened look to her. Hato's features softened when he apologized. Apology accepted, Naruto-kun. Hato then looked around and saw her husband was coming her way. Naruto-kun, there's something I wanted to ask you, but I guess it could wait until I have more time. But Choji and I wanted to ask you if you would like to be the godfather of our child. I know you aren't with anyone right now, but we really would like for you to be our baby's godfather, if you want to only though. Naruto was shocked at such an honor. Knowing Sasuke though, if he had been around, he would make fun of Naruto, saying Naruto would be incapable and a lousy godfather and all. Naruto felt a stab at his heart when he thought about this morbidly. He had to remember why he was upset and why Hato had stopped him in the first place. I'd have to think about it first, Hato-chan. You sure you wouldn't want to ask Kiba and Hinata-chan? I mean, they are much better at this stuff than me. Look at them, they got 3 kids already and another one on the way too? You and they are close, ever since you fought off that grass ninja who blinded Hinata-chan and almost killed Kiba. Hato shook her head. No, I'd rather you be my baby's godfather, Naruto-kun. They're spoiled people already. This is my first baby and I would rather it grow up knowing he or she has a great godfather who will one day be the next Hokage. She smiled at him. She had a funny feeling. The reason Naruto-kun was acting like this was because he had discovered Sakura-chan and Sasuke-san were doing each other at last. She and a few others had accidentally spied on the 2 lovebirds making out a few weeks back. Her heart ached to comfort Naruto-kun. Right now, he was her best friend after all. Naruto then shrugged. Okay, I guess I could be the godfather then, hehehe. After all, if I do become Hokage, the little guy's gonna have someone to look up to and all. He was attempting to be slightly funny as well as show that he was still attempting to achieve his goal, even if his heart was still broken right now. Suddenly a voice spoke up. Hey Dobi. Naruto grumbled as he quickly said, "I better go." Hato-chan, tell Choji I said hi and take care of yourself. I've got to go head to the missions office right now. With that he quickly took off at a quick-paced walk, not wishing to speak to the one who had called him Dobi. Knowing full well if he did talk to him, someone was going to definitely get hurt. Hato was biting her lip as she heard Sasuke-san shout out, and saw Naruto take off the way he did. Something was definitely upsetting Naruto-kun. Wincing slightly as she felt her baby kicking her, she turned towards the raven-haired Uchiha prodigy and glared at him for a moment, as she spoke. Sasuke Uchiha, bane of this village, and of a certain someone's sanity it seems. Why do you insist on calling Naruto-kun a Dobi? He's not a Dobi at all anymore. He's changed a lot ever since he saved your sorry excuse of a hide. She then poked the Uchiha in the chest. This had startled the Uchiha man. Hato, I don't have time for this. Naruto was supposed to be at a training session with me and Sakura 45 minutes ago, and I saw him with you just a moment ago, said Sasuke, slight worry on his features. Well, maybe he doesn't want to talk to you right now. Maybe you and Sakura-chan should be more careful where you have more often. Apparently someone has become quite hurt from seeing such a sight as that. She huffed at the Uchiha as she started waddling off towards her husband, having said her part in what she now understood, the reason for Naruto's sadness. Sakura had broken his heart. This left Sasuke confused, and then suddenly shocked. Oh no, damn, he must have seen us. Great, I better go find Sakura quickly and explain to her first before I go talk to Naruto. Shaking his head, how could he have been so stupid as to let Sakura pull him into such a stupid idea as to fuck each other senseless in the middle of the training ground? Knowing Naruto was undoubtedly going to meet them that morning, he could imagine right now how much pain he must be in right then and there. Damn, that stupid bitch? He muttered as he continued running at a fast pace for Sakura's apartment, before 10 minutes later dragging Sakura out of her apartment and down the street in search of Naruto. So what, Sasuke-kun? He would have found out eventually. Whined the pink-haired Kunoichi. It's not like I loved him. I only love you now, Sasuke. Sasuke glared at Sakura. You're a bitch, you know that. Did you not stop and think that Naruto probably has liked, and no wait, loved you since the academy? Sasuke's attitude towards Naruto had changed since Naruto came to take him back to Konohagakure. He had found out also all those years, why Naruto had been so powerful during their Genin days, because of Kyuubi. Naruto was like his little brother, and he had selfishly taken Sakura from him. Sakura pouted at him. I don't care, I never cared about him, and neither should you, Sasuke. He's always been a pest and so annoying, too. Suddenly a voice spoke up from above them. That's nice to hear, Sakura. Geez, that makes me feel a whole lot better, TTEBYO. Sasuke and Sakura both looked up to see Naruto standing above them in a tree, his arms crossed tightly against his chest and a pained expression on his face and in his blue eyes. Sasuke shook his head as he looked away in shame. He felt extremely bad about this now. Sakura glared up at Naruto and said as she crossed her own arms against her chest, It's true, Naruto, no one really cares about you in this village. Sasuke even said it to me, that he never cared about you, even though you did help bring him back. Why don't you grow up, Naruto? Nobody, and I repeat, no one gives two damns about you. Sasuke glared daggers at Sakura's harsh and cruel words to Naruto. He peered up slightly to see Naruto suddenly clench his chest with his hand, and a batch of new tears began to pour down his whiskered face. Sasuke flinched slightly. All the years of pain Sasuke could see in Naruto's eyes at that very moment. Sakura then nudged Sasuke's arm. Go ahead and tell him, Sasuke, what you told me a few days ago. We hate him, right? Sasuke chewed on the inside of his cheek, and looked down at the ground. He hated being pressured into things like this. If he didn't make Sakura happy, he would lose her, but if he did say cruel words to Naruto, he would lose the only friend that had cared enough to come after him, and risk dying for him as well. Friendship and love go hand in hand, it seemed. Sorry, Naruto, forgive me for this. Naruto watched through the tears and listened as he held back his sobs, when Sasuke spoke those cruel words to him. Naruto, I hate you. I've always hated you. I think you are a stupid moronic fool. Believe it, no girl would ever want to touch you, ever. No one cares about a moron like you, and they never will. Sasuke quickly looked away as he finished what he had said. Suddenly he heard the poofing sound of the body flickering technique being used. He sighed, he had really sent Naruto over the edge and into total darkness now, when it came to his pain and sorrow. Sakura giggled and said, "Good, at least he now got the hint that we don't care about him, right, Sasuke-kun?" She then hugged Sasuke tightly to her. Sasuke felt withdrawn and suddenly he pushed her away, as he backed up. "You're never happy until you've hurt someone you know, that Sakura, you're such a cold-hearted bitch. I think I made the mistake of becoming your boyfriend, you went too damn far with Naruto, you don't realize how fragile he is at all, do you? You know what, get out of my face, I don't want to see you for a few days at all, until you go and apologize to Naruto for your lameness, and until you do, I refuse to touch you, in any way," shouted Sasuke as he quickly stomped off angry at himself for hurting his best friend the way he had. Sakura was left dumbfounded, standing there. Had she gone too far this time? Why was Sasuke all of a sudden protective of Naruto? Sasuke had truthfully told her one night that he hated Naruto, and was lucky that he had won her heart in the end. Why now? Sakura hadn't seen how pained Naruto was, nor had she cared. Perhaps now she had gone too far. Sasuke had seen Naruto's pain, and now he was mad at Sakura for sending Naruto over the edge. Sakura was so stupid, if Naruto was angry now, he probably would unleash Kyuubi on the village. The first thing she had to do was go find Kakashi-sensei and warn him about Naruto and tell him what happened. Quickly she made a few hand seals and disappeared within a wisp of swirling winds. An animalistic shout could be heard somewhere in the Forest of Death. This had been where Naruto ended up, and this was where he planned to stay for a while until he could control his tears and how much pain he was going through. He felt so cold now, nothing would warm him up anymore. His heart had been torn to shreds in a matter of hours. He knew there was nothing left nor a reason for him to even exist. You know, that was extremely cruel of them, Kit. To tell you after all those times you tried to save Sasuke and even her when she was in danger, that they hate you. They had no right to say those words, what would they know of love? Spoke a very familiar voice inside of Naruto's head. Shut up, Fox. I don't want to talk to you, ever again. You're the reason everyone hates me in the first place. Now I know that I'll never find love, and I doubt I'll ever become Hokage now. They were always holding me back, always. Suddenly Naruto collapsed right then and there onto the tree branch. The pain in his heart and the excessive crying had worn him out. Also the fact there was a countermeasure that activated when Naruto was feeling too many emotions at once. His body would immediately shut down at the overflow of emotions. The fox sighed inside of Naruto, and shook its head. The poor boy had collapsed from exhaustion. The fox had become more affectionate towards his container over the years. He had seen through Naruto's eyes, what Sasuke and Sakura had done. He had also seen Hato try to be kind to him, but he knew the girl was only trying to make him feel worse about his troubled love life. He knew since the day Naruto had met Sakura, that girl would be the death of him. I best try to revive him, he'll only end up getting eaten by one of those giant snakes or something worse. That boy better not try and hurt himself, now that no one else seems to care about him," said the fox to himself. The fox then attempted to awaken him, by injecting some of its chakra into Naruto's collapsed and cold body now, but to no avail. The fox grunted, knowing full well it would be a while before someone actually found him. Hopefully he wouldn't get killed while lying here. Kakashi was angered that he had to go search the entire village for Naruto now. He had finally got a date with Kurenai, after Asuma died and left her pregnant and all. And now he had to go find a suicidal knuckle-headed ninja before he tried to kill himself or unleash Kyuubi's powers, over a stupid thing like this. He gave Sakura a cold gaze as the girl met up with her former sensei after searching for him for 30 minutes. "I'm sorry, Kakashi-sensei, I didn't mean to bug you when you were out with Kurenai-sensei, it's just that." Sakura was cut off when Kakashi spoke up, slightly annoyed, which was rare to see. "You're lucky Kurenai and I both are forgiving people, Sakura. This is your fault after all for sending Naruto into this depressed state. No telling what he would do now. You and Sasuke should have kept your big mouths shut, in all honesty." Suddenly someone joined them as the person spoke. Someone thinks they saw Naruto-kun going into the, Forest of Death. Kakashi-sensei, Lee-san, Neji-ni-san and Tenten-chan are heading there now. The voice coming from, sweet little Hinata, he thought it was Hato-eh? Lol. A very worried look on her face. Even though she was with Kiba now, she still had slight feelings for Naruto. Kakashi had asked Hinata, Neji, Tenten and Rock Lee to help him out in finding Naruto. Seeing Neji and the rest of his team were Anbu and were off duty, believed it would be alright for them to help in the search, after all Naruto was their friend. Hinata wanted to also help in the search, because she had figured her Byakugan would be a big help as well as Neji's. Alright. Let's hurry this up, I would like to go back and salvage what's left of my date with Kurenai, said Kakashi as he quickened his pace. Kakashi then turned to Sakura and said quietly enough not to alarm Hinata, if Naruto somehow kills himself or injures himself because of your words, I think I'll have a word with the Hokage about revoking you going on ninja missions for a while or something more important of yours. Sakura gulped at this, she already had started to feel bad for Naruto being in so much pain. He loved her, she had figured it out. But Sasuke had got to her first, and confessed his love for Sakura. She should have told Sasuke to wait, in case Naruto had feelings for her. But no, same old Sakura just had to jump at the chance of finally being with the man she had always wanted to be with. Not even thinking of Naruto's feelings, and how much he really had loved her during all those times together. Now she felt it might be too late to apologize to the blonde-haired boy. He probably had indeed killed himself or done something just as bad. As they reached the gate to the Forest of Death, all three ninja were greeted by Rock Lee, who immediately removed his Anbu mask, that was in the shape of what looked to be a turtle of some kind. Kakashi-san, Sakura-chan, Hinata-chan, Tenten and Neji have found Naruto-kun. He's in pretty bad shape though. Kakashi's eyes widened and he immediately looked at Sakura for a moment before turning back to Lee and said, take us to his exact location. Hi, Kakashi-san? Lee saluted, placing his mask back onto his face. The 19-year-old Anbu officer quickly led them to Naruto's location. Tenten and Neji had told Lee to split up in the forest to search for Naruto after they had heard the rumor of Naruto being seen jumping over the fence and into the Forest of Death by an onlooker. This had of course allowed Neji and Tenten to have some alone time together, seeing they hadn't had time as of late to do so. Neji had been hugging Tenten as they stopped to rest for a moment, Neji pulling up his peregrine falcon-shaped Anbu mask to kiss Tenten on the lips when she pulled up her own mask that was in the shape of a tiger or some form of cat. Tenten giggled and spoke as she kissed him back. Neji-kun, we're supposed to be looking for Naruto-kun. Hi, I know you missed me a lot. Seeing we've been so busy with our own missions and squads, Naruto-kun could be in danger. Neji pouted slightly and began nibbling in a certain spot on Tenten's neck that drove her crazy with wanting him, whenever he licked, kissed or nibbled on that particular spot. The 19-year-old Hyuga prodigy spoke in his soft voice. Ah, please heavenly, all I want to do is make out with you, that is all. I'm sure Naruto's fine. He then fiddled with the dial of his headset as he spoke into it. Falcon to Turtle, come in. Have you spot the target yet? Over? Tenten was blushing at Neji calling her his cute nickname for her. She always adored it when he called her heavenly, seeing her name did mean that. Better than calling her Panda-chan like Lee always did. Turtle to Falcon, I haven't found him yet. How are things on your side? I'm going to head towards the gates. Maybe he's there. Over, spoke Lee over the microphone. Tenten then shook her head and spoke into her own microphone to him. Clouded Leopard to Turtle, stick to the plan we gave you. The target isn't that far into the forest. Over, don't be an idiot. Falcon, check with your Byakugan to see if you can find him, she said while having the microphone still on the on position. Neji sighed and turned in a certain direction and began making hand seals pretty fast. Byakugan, he called out as the veins near his temples began to pop out as his eyes reverted to Byakugan. Neji then quietly began to scan the area he and Tenten were in and immediately stopped when he spotted something. Falcon to Turtle, I repeat, target has been found and is in bad shape. Better go get Puppy right now. Over, I repeat that again. Target has been found and in bad shape. We might need a medic ninja here too. Clouded Leopard and I will go find out his situation. Go and get Puppy. Over. Hi, Falcon, I'm on my way now to retrieve Puppy, said Lee over the microphone. Tenten frowned. Naruto-kun, what's wrong with him? She asked Neji as she turned off her microphone. When they had referred to someone called Puppy, it had been Kakashi they were referring to, seeing Kakashi had once served the Anbu Black Ops at one point, and that had been his Anbu codename, seeing Kakashi had an affinity for summoning dogs and all. Neji then said, "He's unconscious, and his chakra seems to be at dangerous low levels right now. The Kyuubi in him seems to have tried to inject its chakra into Naruto as well. I could see that red chakra's traces in his chakra pathways. Come on, let's move. He's probably been out here for 2 hours now, and it will be nightfall soon. It gets more dangerous in this forest at night than during the day." Tenten then quickly placed her mask back onto her face as she shouted, "Hi." And with that they took off quickly towards where Naruto had been spotted lying on the tree branch. 6 minutes pass, and they both arrive. Tenten immediately getting onto her hands and knees beside Naruto and began to shake him gently into consciousness, which rewarded her with a moan escaping from Naruto's lips. Let me die, I don't deserve to live anymore. They hate me, they all do." "Naruto-kun," said Tenten worriedly. She then looked up at Neji, who she could sense, seeing she couldn't see his face due to the mask he was wearing. She knew that he was worried about Naruto. The boy had changed Neji for the better. Neji was more caring of Tenten and even their goofy partner, Rock Lee, now because of Naruto, as well as for those around him more than he had when he was younger. Neji kneeled down beside Tenten and touched his shoulder. "Naruto, wake up." He spoke, trying to be gentle with the boy. Someone had really done something to Naruto for him to be in this state. Neji drew back his hand when he realized how cold Naruto was, to the touch, as if there was no warmth in his body, as if he was a dead cold body just laying there. Naruto finally opened his blue eyes, to stare up at the two young Anbu officers. What the two of them saw shocked them deeply into their souls. The once bright light that shined in Naruto's eyes when he was happy was replaced by a dead look, as if there were no emotions or life left in his eyes. Tenten bit her lip as she spoke. "Naruto-kun, help is coming. We'll take you to the hospital. You had us all worried about you." Naruto just started laughing, an unemotional sarcastic laugh. "Huh? No one cares about me. They all said it. I'm a hopeless moronic fool. I'm something in the past that has to be erased from the face of the earth. Well, guess what, Sakura, you don't have to worry about me. Neither do you, Sasuke." He suddenly screamed out. This had made both Neji and Tenten gasp at this. Those two, Naruto's own teammates, his precious people, had done something cruelly to Naruto, and Naruto had come to realize that no one in the world loved him, not even as a friend anymore. This was his ultimate and final punishment, it seemed. Neji spoke up to Naruto, trying to get his attention. "Don't say stupid things like that, Naruto. There are people who care about you." But he never got to finish his words before 4 people showed up next to Neji and Tenten and the now fast asleep Naruto. Kakashi had arrived, with Hinata and the others. Kakashi looked slightly annoyed, but concern written on his face, as he spoke to the two Anbu. "I heard Naruto yelling out something about Sakura and Sasuke. He's really in bad shape, isn't he?" This rewarded Kakashi with a quick nod from the two Anbu lovers. Kakashi rubbed the back of his head as he turned to look at Sakura and then Hinata for a moment. "Turtle, I want you to take Sakura away from here. I don't think her presence will help in Naruto's recovery from this. Hinata-chan, you stay here with me and help me get Naruto out of here. Falcon and Clouded Leopard, help me also. Make sure we won't get attacked by any of the wildlife here." "Hi," said the others as they immediately did as they were told to do. Sakura looked saddened at Naruto's lifeless sleeping body. She was really now regretting her harsh words. She had heard him yell out her name and Sasuke's name the way he had as they hurried to the site where Neji and Tenten had found Naruto's unconscious form. "Forgive me, Naruto-kun. I'm so sorry for hurting you this badly. If you had just told me long ago you loved me, maybe I wouldn't have blindly hurt you the way I did today," thought a teary-eyed Sakura as she was led away by Lee out of the forest. Once Sakura was out of earshot range, Kakashi spoke in a more quiet tone to Neji and Tenten. "Give me the gist of everything that was said before I arrived here, Falcon and Clouded Leopard." Hinata listened quietly, as she ran a hand through Naruto's sweat-soaked hair, trying to comfort the poor boy, as Tenten spoke up. "When we arrived we attempted to awaken Naruto, and when Falcon and I managed to finally do that, Naruto began to rant on about him not being loved or something, and that he blames Sakura and Sasuke for this. I don't know what's going on, Kakashi-san, but whatever was said and done, there's no life in his eyes left. All that happiness he used to have, that energy, it's totally gone." Neji agreed quietly with Tenten's assessment of the situation. Kakashi frowned through his mask and shook his head, as he spoke while lifting Naruto up, carefully. I see, so now he's finally snapped. After all the years of pain and abuse he went through, he has come to realize that no one cares about him. He sighed again as he continued to speak afterwards. Well, I guess all we can do is put him in the hospital and keep him on the Hitaki watch right now. They had nicknamed the watch on people who wanted to kill themselves over missions or things that had upset them so much, the Hitaki watch, because of what had happened long ago to Kakashi's father, Tsukumo Hitaki. Kakashi's father had committed suicide when Kakashi had been very young. Neji and Tenten and Hinata both agreed with a quiet, "Hi," as they got up and dusted themselves off and began following Kakashi, who immediately took off for the gates to the Forest of Death. Naruto had indeed come to the realization that not one single soul left in this world loved him or wanted him around. That spark that had always made everyone around him happy was slowly beginning to die off. He didn't even know that people did care enough to have come after him and bring him back into the village during the whole time he was unconscious. All Naruto knew now was that he would never achieve his dream to become Hokage, nor to find the person that he would love for the rest of his life. Sakura had made sure of that, oh yes. She had indeed made sure to rip what heart he had left and shred it and break it into tiny pieces, to the point it would never heal or could be fixed again. All Naruto knew now was that he wanted to die and end the suffering that people had put him through all those years of his life, since the day he was born and became the living vessel of the nine-tailed fox. All he knew was he had no existence in this world now. It was also a realization that he would be better off dead, so that people would stop having to suffer through the pain that the Kyuubi had inflicted on all of the village all those 18 years ago. All Naruto ever knew was that he was a monster that everyone had feared and hated, and until this day still hated and would hate until Naruto just lay on the ground and died from the torture they would put him through. Everyone had been informed of Naruto's health. Even Gaara, who was the case cage of the Sand Village, had been informed. Gaara had wanted to know what had happened. He had asked his sister and brother-in-law, as well as Kankuro, whom he had sent to Konohagakure to get the reason for Naruto's sudden illness. Gaara owed Naruto for the things he had done for him, a pretty big debt. When Kankuro had returned to tell him that Naruto's illness was the cause of a certain pink-haired kunoichi, this had made Gaara furious, as it had some of Naruto's other friends. To think Sakura would send Naruto into a depressed coma-like state. To be so cruel to the blonde Jinchuriki. Gaara wanted to teach Sakura a lesson as well as the one that Sakura had been with that made Naruto even more in pain than he had. But Gaara had known he didn't wish to cause a diplomatic incident by killing the girl and Sasuke. No, he would punish them in his own way that wouldn't cause an incident that could very well break the alliance between the Leaf and Sand villages that had taken years to finally build up into a harmonious coexistence that involved the marriage between his sister and Shikamaru that had been a part of the alliance's reason for being so strong was because of those two, as had a few other factors as well. Gaara had decided he would go to the Leaf Village and visit his friend. Perhaps this would cheer Naruto up. It had always done so in the past, since Gaara had got back the sand spirit that he had been infused with from the Akatsuki. He and Shukaku had come to terms that neither of them could truly be able to work together, without Gaara being in control. Shukaku had agreed with him, and had even finally allowed Gaara to sleep, which had been a long time, 18 years since Gaara was ever able to sleep. So Gaara, dressed in his ninja gear, taking only a few of his Anbu Black Ops and his brother with him, quietly slipped out of Sunagakure and started heading for Konohagakure. Gaara spoke softly to his brother as they walked through the twisting sand dunes. Kankuro, when we arrive, I want you to find the ones who caused his pain. I want a word with them. His pale green eyes peered through his red unruly bangs as he spoke this. The love symbol on his forehead had begun to disappear over the years, since he had met his girlfriend a few years ago. She and he had gone steady, knowing full well he was busy with his cage duties and she being the head of the Anbu Black Ops of Sunagakure with her duties. Kankuro shuddered slightly at those words, knowing full well Gaara might get pretty angry when he confronted those two, and nodded his head. All right, Nisama, he said to Gaara as they continued to walk. Gaara nodded once and turned to keep his attention on the path they were taking to get to Konohagakure. It will be nice to see Nei-chan again. And our niece and nephew as well, he said quietly. He was looking forward to seeing Shikari and Shikaku, pronounced Shukaku, indeed. The twins had taken a love for their red-headed Uncle Gaara, since they probably could start talking no doubt. Shikari looked so much like Temari and even had a slight temper to boot like Gaara's sister. Shikaku was more like his father, lazy and annoyed at times at things that were around him. Kankuro nodded, as he said, "It's about time you got out of that stuffy office of yours. You've hardly ever leave it, only to go be with Lilana and that's it. Even then you tell Lilana to come meet you at the office. The kids miss you. Temari told me when I went to Konohagakure to find out what happened to Naruto." Kankuro always got along with more his nephew, seeing Shikari had taken it upon her to kick Kankuro in the knee whenever she saw him, and then demand when he would give her a puppet show. But Kankuro never once said he hated his niece, even though he hated brats in general, long ago. Gaara chuckled softly as he continued walking. "Shikari gave you the treatment once again, didn't she?" He continued to chuckle. Gaara had really softened up over the time since Naruto changed him. This was why Gaara was going to see Naruto now, knowing his friend was dangerously close to dying now. No thanks to Sakura Haruno and Sasuke Uchiha. Sometimes Gaara had wished he had killed the Kunoichi and raven-haired boy when he had the chance, when he had been psychotic Gaara, when he had let Shukaku always control him. Perhaps Naruto wouldn't be lying in the Konoha hospital, on the verge of death right now, because of those two, causing him so much pain. Kankuro, I hope Naruto-kun pulls through this. I understand him more than anyone else. What he has been put through, I was like him after all, always in pain, hoping to one day find someone who actually would care about me, and would love me. Even though now I have Lilana, Naruto-kun has no one left. I fear he thinks he doesn't have an existence now. He has become consumed with the realization of this. Gaara said this knowingly. He had come to this conclusion after having found out through Kankuro what had happened. Kankuro was slightly shocked. You don't think he'd, commit suicide because of Haruno and that Uchiha, do you? I mean, the thing inside of Naruto probably wouldn't let him do that. If Naruto died, it would die too after all. He stuttered. We can only hope the fox inside of him won't allow it, but judging from what you told me, and the report the current Hokage gave me, it is a possibility he will. That's why if I go there, perhaps I can help him. I owe him so much for the things he helped me with, saving me from myself and from Akatsuki, said Gaara sadly. The two Anbu guards behind the brothers both gasped, knowing not just Gaara owed Naruto, but the entire village as well for saving their cage long ago. Gaara and Kankuro both nodded to each other and continued to remain quiet for the remainder of the trip, only talking when the need arose. Knowing full well, Naruto would probably never be his happy self, ever again. Naruto just laid there in the hospital bed, emotionless and deadly quiet. He hadn't spoken a word since awaking in the hospital a few days ago. He didn't even say anything when Hato and Choji came to check on him from time to time. It had been a month since he had slipped into this deep and dark pit of depression that he knew now he would never get out of. He was unaware that Gaara was coming to see him, unaware that things had been happening outside of his hospital room. He seemed lifeless to those that had came to visit him. Not even Sasuke and Sakura had appeared to apologize to him or talk to him. Which was fine for Naruto. He knew they didn't care at all about him, never had and never would. Naruto turned his head when he heard someone coming into his room, slightly. His eyes still their dark, lifeless selves. The person who had come in was Hato once again, but she had brought someone with her. It was none other than Sasuke himself. Naruto knew there were Anbu guards outside of his hospital room, seeing he had probably been placed under suicidal watch after what happened. He refused to speak, seeing the focus of his pain had shown up after a month of Naruto being in the hospital. But he heard Hato speak angrily to Sasuke. See what your foolery has caused him, Sasuke. He refuses to talk or even to get up out of that bed to train his ninja skills, and you call yourself his brother? That's your damn problem. You hurt those who risked their damn lives and dreams and hopes for you, and you repay them in kind by sending them into a deep pit of depression. You're lucky I don't send you into the flames of hell right now. Naruto could see Hato's eyes turning crimson as Naruto realized her Kekkei Genkai had activated by accident during the whole time. Sasuke growled back at Hato, Hato, that's why I came here right now, to make things right. It's not my damn fault he couldn't take the news properly. I wanted to break it to him gently, and I'm not the only one to damn fucking blame here. Sakura was the one who said it too. Why aren't you fucking harassing her? Arg, I don't fucking have time for this. I have to hurry up and leave on an A-class mission in the next 30 minutes. And your fucking yelling at me isn't helping me at all. You're even lucky that you have that mirror reflecting jutsu to your Shinzui Kawan. I would have probably won that fight we had before you went and married that fat ass and got pregnant with his child. Hato almost snapped if it wasn't for someone else coming into the room, and grabbed her around her waist. Choji had come to also visit Naruto with his wife. Naruto could hear Choji speak softly to her. Hato, don't get stressed over this. It's not good for the baby nor you. Sasuke is just as worried about Naruto as we are. Choji then kissed Hato's cheek and nibbled on her ear as he attempted to calm her down. Naruto watched Hato frown slightly before turning and giving him a hug. Naruto was becoming disgusted at seeing the affection those two had for each other. He didn't move a muscle as he just laid there and listened to the conversation as Choji gave Sasuke a glare. If you have to go on a mission, then be quick with what you have to say. Hokage-sama and even Kakashi-sensei told you and Sakura to stay away from him, because of what you did, and if you ever call me fat ass again, Hato won't be the only one that someone will have to be held back from murdering you, said Choji as he then led his 8-month pregnant wife out of the room to leave Sasuke to speak with Naruto. Naruto shifted to his side as Sasuke grunted for a moment before turning his gaze towards Naruto. A frown appeared on his lips when he saw Naruto's back was to him. Perhaps it was a mistake for him to come and attempt to get Naruto to forgive him. Naruto was being an idiot to let something like this get to him. Sasuke sighed and spoke, "Hey, turn around and look at me for a moment, Dobi." He knew his nickname for Naruto would always usually get him riled up, but at this moment he knew Naruto wouldn't even speak to him now. He must be in a lot of pain right now. Damn Sakura, damn me for hurting him. He must have known this was going to happen though. I never knew he really loved her, thought Sasuke as he attempted to reach over to shake Naruto to look at him. Naruto didn't even budge. When he heard Sasuke call him that word, Sasuke didn't ever apologize to him. That wasn't Sasuke. Naruto knew that now. He listened to Sasuke's words as he spoke again, as he felt Sasuke's hand attempt to touch his shoulder. Naruto, look, I'm sorry, okay, for what I said. I had to say them to make her happy, or I wouldn't ever hear the end of it later. There are people who care about you. I realized that now. Everyone has turned on me and continued to harass me for what I said. If it makes you feel any better, I'll dump her. You're like my little brother. I can't see you like this. Hell, you risked your life just to come and save my sorry ass when you should have been training to become Hokage. Your dream, if I remember right. Sasuke knew he was running out of time. He had to be at the village gate to go with Sakura and Kiba on a mission in the next 10 minutes. He ran his hand frustrated like through his bangs as he spoke again. Naruto, look, I'll come see you in a week or two. I hope you still have the heart to forgive me. I was selfish. I had no idea you loved her that much. If I had known, I wouldn't have proposed to her. Yami and Sakura are engaged now, by the way, and she feels that if I don't apologize to you, well, she feels extremely bad about what she said to you. So when you're ready, we'll be around to talk to you, okay? Sasuke then reached over to give his arm a squeeze before he got up and stiffly walked out of the hospital room, stopping when he thought he heard Naruto say this very, very softly. It's too late now? Thinking it was his imagination, he continued walking out of the hospital room, to be replaced by Hato and now Tenten, who had come off duty from her Anbu mission. Choji had left to go talk to Shikamaru and his family. Tenten spoke to Hato as she came to sit down beside Naruto's bed. Hey Hato, so has there been any change in Naruto-kun since me and Neji came to visit him? She was quite concerned about Naruto since discovering his unconscious body in the forest of death. Hato shook her head. The medic ninja said that they didn't know what else to do with him. I feel so bad for him. What those two did to him, it's like he's given up on everything. And we all know that he would never give up on anything, not even his own life, for this matter. He's so depressed. Hato looked ready to cry at that moment. Tenten frowned and turned to look at Naruto, who had somehow shifted himself on the bed, after Sasuke had left the room. Damn them to hell both. Naruto snapped out of it. Tenten suddenly shouted as she stood up and shook the boy, like she had done to Rock Lee when they were younger. We know you would never give up. You can't let them beat you. God, pull yourself together. Hato watched Tenten shake him for another few minutes and then gently place him down on the bed. Hato winced slightly when she felt a cramping pain in her stomach for a moment. Tenten turned towards Hato when she saw the wince. "Hato-chan, are you alright? It's not your time, is it?" Hato shook her head. "No, just a muscle cramp, that's all. I still have another month to go before the baby makes its appearance. I wish Naruto-kun would pull through this soon. He'll miss out seeing his godchild if he doesn't." Hato swiped at her eyes as she felt tears well up in them. Naruto listened silently, not even looking like he had been affected by Tenten shaking him. He hadn't meant to hurt Hato or upset her. This made him even more depressed, that he had hurt his friends even more, with his little fit of sadness. This made him feel more of a monster now than ever. Tenten could be heard sighing again, as she rubbed her forehead in frustration, at the entire situation in front of her. So basically not even me yelling at him is affecting him. God, I can't believe he's acting so selfish and childish, Naruto. You're causing Hato and a lot of us grief, you know? I hope you're damn happy now. I have no pity for those who give up on their life when they get knocked down by a simple rejection like this. Hato, I'm going to leave right now. Neji and I were supposed to meet up today. Whenever Naruto comes out of his stupor, let me know, okay? With that, Naruto heard Tenten stomp out of his hospital room, leaving a saddened Hato, who began to mumble softly. You shouldn't give up on him so easily, Tenten-chan. You try loving someone for a long time, and finally when you get the courage to confess your feelings, and find out that all this time, the person never cared about you, how you would have felt. No wait, that's right, you never did. You always had Neji by your side. Hato turned her violet gaze towards Naruto to look into his lifeless blue eyes for a few minutes and bit her lip before saying to him, I apologize for Tenten's harsh words. She's just suffering because she hates to see you in so much pain like me and Choji and the others. We care about you, Naruto-kun. The baby cares about you. Even if it can't say those words at this moment, I know it would care. Hato then turned and looked around for a moment, Naruto noticing this before she whispered into his ear. Don't tell Choji, because I know he wanted it to be a surprise when the baby comes, but I'm having a little boy. I found out a few days ago from Tsunade-sama. She smiled and brushed Naruto's cheek gently with her hand, wincing when she felt how cold his body temperature had become over the past month. So you're going to have a godson in another month or so, Naruto-kun. I know me and Choji want you to be a part of our son's life, but the first thing you have to do is get better for everyone. You're the reason some of us would be alive today, if it hadn't been for you being brave and always getting in the way when we were all in trouble. Said Hato before she sighed and got up to her feet. Please, get better for us, Naruto-kun. In my eyes, you're the greatest ninja in this entire world. No matter how idiotic people think you are, and no matter how weak you may be. This left Naruto thinking, as Hato turned to leave before he managed to finally say something after lips that had been sealed for over a month, finally croaked out. Thank you, Hato? Hato was shocked when she heard Naruto finally speak for the first time in over a month and a few days. Hato smiled softly at Naruto as she turned to him, and nodded. I mean every word too, Naruto-kun. Please get better, and I have to go see my husband right now. I will return later. Naruto nodded quietly and turned his lifeless eyes to look out the window. He was amazed Ero Sennin wasn't popping in here to see him. He knew probably the entire village knew he had fallen deathly ill. He's probably off being a pervert as always him, Kit? That girl seems never to leave you alone. I'm starting to notice, she can be such a pest. That girl happens to be the only person other than Tenten and Choji that gives a damn. Now I know it's too late to talk to Sakura. You heard Sasuke? They are engaged now. Tenten hates me now because of my pity party I fell into. Fox. It's always my fault when something bad happens. Maybe I should just leave the village permanently, so that Hato's unborn son won't end up being the one to suffer because of me, or everyone else. Face it, Fox. I am a loser. Sasuke said that to me long ago. No one would touch someone like me, because of you. All these years, I should have realized it sooner. Maybe I should have turned into something like Gaara was, and killed everything in sight when the first chance I got. Why didn't you then? I mean, come on, kid. You could have wiped the entire village out with my powers, yet you didn't. You still care about the village, don't you? Even though they've put you through this pain that you are suffering from, am I right? Maybe you're right and maybe you're wrong. I know that I can't attempt to achieve my dream now. Everyone is sick of me. Who would want someone like me as a Hokage? I can't even do anything right, even if I am seen as a hero. Everyone would be better off without me, I think. Now that the Akatsuki, Itachi, And even now Orochimaru are all dead. My purpose is finished now. Maybe it's time I died. Naruto closed his mind off to the fox's retort that he knew was coming, and immediately he attempted to get to his feet from his bed. He peered around for his clothing. They had taken his kunai and shuriken holster when they had brought him here. Knowing Naruto probably would attempt something like killing himself, and now that he had no one left that would love him. Damn it, fuck, well I can't end my life right now. It seems, stupid fox and his stupid words. They aren't true at all. I don't care about this village anymore. Maybe I should rely on the fox's powers and break the seal and let him take over my body. Suddenly Naruto felt that familiar ache in his chest return, wincing slightly as he clutched his chest again with his hand. Sasuke was only saving his own hide, this Naruto knew, because undoubtedly Tsunade Ba-sama had threatened to throw the two in jail if they hadn't gone to apologize to him. Naruto felt tears began to fall down his cheeks as the pain worsened in his chest. Naruto let out an anguished yell of pain that alerted the two Anbu officers outside of his room, who immediately ran in. One of them that looked like a chameleon, mask-wise yelled, "Go get the medic, tell them to get here fast. Also go inform Hokage that he's awake now." The other Anbu quickly nodded their head and ran quickly down the hall to find the medic, while the chameleon officer went to Naruto's doubled-over frame and began rubbing his back with a gloved hand. "Naruto, try to breathe through your nose, if the pain's too much. You suffered a small heart attack when they found you a month ago. Just take a few calming breaths, okay?" Naruto blinked with those eyes of his at the Anbu. Why did they care so much if he stayed alive? Naruto had always thought that Anbu believed him to be a security risk, all of those precious 18 years of Naruto's life. Naruto though began to attempt to breathe, but he was having problems as he did this. "Damn it, where is that medic? Don't die on me now," said the Anbu officer as the officer continued rubbing Naruto's back gently. Naruto's chest pain stopped after another few minutes, to only have Naruto collapse into the Anbu officer's arms a minute later. Just as this happened, the medic on duty finally showed up, as well as a frantic and angry-looking Tsunade and her assistant, Shizune, who had also been very worried at the time. Tsunade barked orders at the medic to check Naruto's vitals as she then turned to the Anbu and spoke. "What happened here, chameleon? Give me a straight answer right now." "Hi Hokage-sama," bowed the officer and then went into detail what had happened and who had shown up. Tsunade shook her head after this. "Blast, that fucking kid. I told him to stay away from Naruto until he was fully recovered from his heart attack. He didn't listen. When he gets back from his mission, I'm going to decorate my office with his blood if it keeps this up." She then turned and walked over to Naruto's bed where the medic was setting him up to a machine that could keep an eye on his heart rate. Tsunade bent her head down to listen to Naruto's chest for a moment. "His heart beats very erratic yet low. Make sure you keep an eye on that, Ieyashi. From now on, no visitors allowed in this room until Naruto's heart attack symptoms have totally healed. Unless I give people a letter, is that to be understood?" "Hi, Hokage-sama," barked out the Anbu officer, Shizune and the medic that was checking Naruto's vitals, after having finished hooking him up to it. Tsunade rubbed her forehead as she felt a headache coming on. Where the hell is Sakura anyway? Wasn't she supposed to be on a mission with Kiba and Sasuke during this time? Shizune pulled out a clipboard that had a list of Konohagakure ninja who were in the village at this moment, and who were on missions. She then began to skim it for a moment and nodded her head. "Hi Tsunade-sama. She is. Why would Sasuke disobey an order from you? Do you think he's trying to make Naruto worse or something?" She had that worry-wart-sounding voice as she spoke this. Tsunade shook her head. "I don't know what is going on, but the more Sasuke tries to see Naruto, the worse his condition is going to get, until his heart explodes. I want you to start helping me write up permission letters for people who want to visit Naruto. I know the Kigemaru Akamichi girl has so far been the only helpful presence, as well as Choji, Neji and Tenten who come to see him, in his recovery. I want you to make sure they are notified of the changes in orders." "Hi Tsunade-sama," said Shizune. "Oh, by the way, Hinata-chan and Kakashi-san have returned from their missions. Should I give them permission as well? I know they were also the ones who found Naruto in that state a month ago." Tsunade thought about this and then gave a small nod. "Yes, give those two my permission. I think Kakashi's presence might make Naruto feel better as well, at least I hope so. Do you think I should deny Sasuke and Sakura's request to get married, as a punishment?" I think that is an excellent idea, Hokage-chan, spoke a quiet voice from around the corner. Tsunade and Shizune turned to see Gaara, Kankuro and two of Gaara's Black Ops bodyguards standing there. Gaara was dressed in his ceremonial cage robes, knowing it was proper etiquette to wear them in front of other cages. Ah, Cage-san, it's a pleasure to see you again. I thought you wouldn't be arriving until tomorrow judging by the letter you sent to us of your impending visit, spoke Tsunade as she bowed her head slightly in respect to Gaara. Gaara turned his pale green eyes to Tsunade and gave her a slight bow in return as respect, before he spoke. What is Naruto's condition right now, Tsunade? I'm afraid it's getting worse by the day. We are doing all we can, even with my advanced knowledge. I can't just snap my fingers and Naruto-kun is totally healed, you know. He's dying from what one would say, a broken heart. He refuses to keep fighting to live, it seems. Gaara's and Kankuru's eyes both widened in shock and sadness, the sadness part coming from Gaara. Then it is lucky I came. I want to offer Naruto a proposition, to help him in his recovery, with your permission of course, Tsunade. Of course, if you think this proposition might help him, in a speedy recovery, I have no qualms over this. Though the heart problems he is having, have to be stabilized before we can even think of allowing him to do anything, said Tsunade as she turned to Shizune for a moment. If you would care to follow my attendant here, I am sure she can set yourself and your brother and guards with a place to stay. Naruto-kun might awaken tomorrow. Right now he's unconscious again. Seeing someone decided to put more stress on Naruto than was necessary. Gaara had that look on his face that he wanted to stay and see Naruto right then, but knew that the Hokage was only trying to tell him the truth. Gaara then asked, is there a chance I can at least see him briefly, right now? I wish only to see him briefly. Tsunade was about to protest but then sighed as she nodded, of course Gaara-san. I'll allow you 5 minutes, I'll have 2 of my Anbu escort you to the place you'll be staying at after. Gaara nodded his head and turned to speak to his brother and his 2 Anbu guards for a moment. A small argument was heard between Gaara and Kankuro before the older brother sighed and nodded his head. Alright, lead the way, said Kankuro to Shizune. Gaara then turned and walked towards Naruto's room that Tsunade had just walked out of, while Kankuro turned to walk with Shizune and Gaara's guards. Knowing Gaara could take care of himself, even without the guards around him and his brother. Gaara slipped into Naruto's room, slightly taken aback to see that Naruto was on a breathing machine now. Gaara frowned as he walked over to Naruto's bedside, not sitting down, just standing there gazing down at his dying friend. Gaara spoke softly, Uzumaki, Naruto, you better not die on me. You have so much to exist for. Do not worry about Sasuke Uchiha or Haruno Sakura. They will be dealt with accordingly. You risked your life to save me from myself. Now it is my turn to save you from yourself. Before it is too late. You vowed one day to become the Kage of this village. I want you to become the next Fire Shadow, to achieve that small dream. He then reached over and gently brushes his hand against Naruto's forehead, leaving his real hand, not his sand one, on the boy's forehead for a few minutes, as Gaara closed his blackened eyes for a moment, as if he was in prayer, for 2 minutes. Gaara then opened his raccoon-like eyes and removed his hand. Turning, he quietly walked out of the hospital room, followed closely behind by 2 Konohagakure Anbu guards to his hotel room. Gaara would be spending the next 2 weeks in Konohagakure to make sure that Naruto would recover fully enough to accept his proposition that he had decided to offer to the blonde boy. He knew Naruto needed to get away from Konohagakure to help him get his emotions in check and all. But Gaara had no idea that Naruto's health had become worse than had been previously stated in the letter to him from Tsunade. Gaara had just about to enter his hospital room, when suddenly, with wide eyes, he watched Naruto suddenly stab himself in the stomach with a kunai blade that he had stolen from one of the Anbu officers he had managed to somehow knock out. The other officer was yelling at him to drop the kunai blade at that very moment. Naruto, please give me the kunai blade. No one needs to know about your attack on my partner here. Just give me the kunai blade before you bleed to death. Gaara then heard Naruto's voice. It didn't really sound like Naruto at all. It held so much pain and suffering in it. Why should I? This village never cared at all. Never had, never will. Not even them, people who I called my precious people. They're to blame, and they are the ones that will regret. Gaara had enough. He stormed into the room, while uncorking his container that contained his sand. Quickly the sand hissed as it came out. Ready for Gaara's command. Naruto, give the officer the kunai blade. This is not the Uzumaki I knew 3 years ago. Brimming with energy, and didn't care what others thought of him. Said a soft-spoken Gaara as he lifted his hand. He would have to attempt to distract Naruto before he injured himself again. Gaara, why should you care any more than they do? Even if you are like me in a way, it doesn't matter. No one's going to care when I die, not anyone, shouted Naruto as he quickly turned around and hopped out the window before Gaara had even the chance to order the sand to restrain his feet. Gaara shook his head and quickly went after him, eyeing the Anbu officer and saying, "Go and tell Hokage that I will go after him. And bring a few medics, he is obviously becoming mentally ill." "That won't be necessary, Gaara-san," spoke an older voice from the window. Gaara turned to see Kakashi crouched in the window sill, holding an unconscious Naruto under one of his arms. Gaara quickly corked his sand container, and walked over to the window. Kakashi shook his head as he hopped into the room, surveying the area for a moment before speaking. "He's getting worse, that's for sure. I had a mission that took me away for a month and a half, that's why I haven't been visiting him since I found him." He was explaining his absence to Gaara. Gaara held up a hand to quiet him. "It's fine, you're not the cause of Naruto's pain, your former students are, Kakashi," said the red-haired Cage. Kakashi nodded and carefully placed Naruto back on the bed, turning to face the Anbu officer. "Take him to the medics, and have someone come and restrain Naruto. He obviously needs counseling, of the severe kind as well." The Anbu officer snapped to attention, saluted the Cage and Kakashi and quickly grabbing his fallen partner, dragged him out of the room to get the fallen officer medical attention. Kakashi sighed and ran a hand through his silver locks. The boy was obviously wishing to end his life, because of those two. He looked towards the young Cage and spoke, "I might have to ask her to have more Anbu guards keep an eye on him. This is getting ridiculous and all." "NN," said a groggy-sounding Naruto. A pair of blue eyes pierced through the two people in his hospital room. Kakashi looked over at Naruto and attempted to smile at him. "Oh hi there Naruto, how are you feeling?" "Kakashi-sensei, Gaara-san," mumbled Naruto, "I feel terrible, right now. I'm sorry for causing you guys so much pain?" Kakashi blinked for a moment or two, and frowned. Even though the boy couldn't see him frown, his eye said it all. "Naruto, stop that. You're not causing people pain, at all. We know how upset you are right now. You need time away from here, to get your thoughts cleared, and in control." Kakashi hadn't even pulled his book out at this time. He was trying to comfort the boy a little, knowing full well he was pissed off at his other former students at this moment, for making Naruto go over the edge. Gaara spoke up as Kakashi stayed silent with his thoughts. "Naruto-kun, your former sensei is right. I think what I want to offer you might help a little bit. Tsunade's already given me permission to ask you this, and to give you the time you need to properly heal. You're more than welcome to come and stay for a visit in Sanagakure, until you are recovered fully." Naruto looked at Gaara with his deadened eyes for a moment and just nodded a little. "Alright, I'll think about it Gaara-san. Thanks, I guess." Gaara smiled slightly to Naruto and said, "I'm here for another few days, before I have to return to my cage duties. Please have your decision ready soon." Without another word, Gaara left the room. Naruto looked at his former sensei and sat up a little, wincing at his stomach hurting, the place he had stabbed himself at that. Kyuubi's power had begun healing him slowly, very slowly at that. Naruto then finally spoke, rudely at this. "You can cut the crap Kakashi. I know you only came here as a sympathy type of visit. I've always known that neither you nor any of Team 7 gave a damn about me. When I was younger, you never came to visit me before whenever I was injured or sick, TTEBYO. Kakashi was getting slightly more upset now than he had been the first time with his other former students. Naruto was obviously traumatized a great deal. He didn't know or realize who his real friends were. Kakashi sighed and ran a gloved hand through his silver locks. True, Kakashi had always never gave Naruto a chance to be privately trained by his old sensei before. Also another truth was that he had never visited Naruto whenever the boy had been sick or badly injured from a mission. Kakashi was at a loss for words, he just kept his silence as he thought. At times he had felt bad for shunning the boy, and picking Sasuke's training over Naruto's own. The boy had probably looked up to him, when he had been younger. Kakashi had beaten himself over the head quite a lot when his student had failed to bring back Sasuke when they had been younger. He had sometimes even wished that he had not taught Chidori so quickly to Sasuke. The boy had tried to kill Naruto with Chidori so many times since then. But even then, Naruto had grown stronger without his tutelage, well until he had decided to help the boy even a little, by helping Naruto unlock his true elemental type of chakra, when the need to bring back Sasuke had become quite desperate for the boy. Kakashi sighed and really wished inwardly to himself, he could just ignore the cold hard look the boy was giving him now. Kakashi shrugged and spoke up finally after 10 minutes of glaring silence had taken over. Hi, that's almost exactly true, Naruto, but things have changed since that time. Now that you and the other two are no longer in need of my tutelage, I figured, for once I'd come see you in the hospital. The need for my skills as of late haven't been quite in so demand. He was trying to make Naruto feel better indeed, he wondered if it was working at all. He snuck a look towards the blonde boy and saw it wasn't quite working as well as he thought it would. Don't make me freaking laugh, Kakashi, why don't you just leave, and go help Sasuke and Sakura feel better? I don't need anyone's fucking pity, not anymore. Shouted Naruto. That's all everyone ever wants to do, is pity the poor fucking Jinchuriki. You all should just keep it to yourself, I don't fucking need anyone's fucking pity. If Kakashi was upset, he was now pretty much in odd shock at how crude Naruto was talking to him now. He is definitely going to need a lot of counseling soon. He doesn't even realize that even an old fool like me has changed slightly. Well, it can't really be helped. Sakura and Sasuke put him in this state. It will probably take a while to rehabilitate him so that he realizes there are some people that care about him. And not everyone is his enemy. Thought Kakashi as he spoke up once again. Hey, look, I'll do you a huge favor, Naruto. But you have to promise me you won't harm yourself and anyone else. I'll buy you a few bowls of ramen. Usually this would cheer the kid up pretty fast. Even though Kakashi never really liked Naruto always eating ramen all the time, the boy couldn't help but eat it all the time. He had guessed all this time. Naruto crossed his arms over his chest, eyeing his former sensei for a while. Fine, but you better not back out of this favor of yours. He would trust Kakashi for now, but Kakashi knew probably that he was on what one would call a short leash by Naruto. Kakashi would do his best not to stand the boy up. Alright then, look, I have to go make a report to the Hokage. I'll see if I can get her to release you soon as you're better, said Kakashi, and quickly without another word he disappeared in a poof of smoke, leaving Naruto to his thoughts. I bet he just said that to make me feel better. They always bribe me with things that might make me feel better. Well, he better not stand me up. We'll see, HMPH. He looked out the window of his hospital room for a few minutes after thinking this. He would indeed wait and see what would happen in the next few days. He was still feeling miserable, very miserable at that. 2 weeks later, Naruto had given his word that he would come and visit Sanagakure Tagara before the young Cage had to go back to his village. His health was back to almost normal and was able to leave the stupid hospital finally after 2 extra days later after Tsunade came to examine him again. Naruto avoided everyone and tried to train by himself alone. Kakashi had kept his promise and bought him ramen, which Naruto had been shocked that Kakashi had indeed kept to his word at first. His so-called friends had understood that Naruto wanted to be left to himself for the time being. The boy was still in an extremely fragile state. But alas, Naruto was going to be interrupted, it seemed, today, as he headed for the training grounds that he usually trained in by himself. He could hear voices coming from there, and decided perhaps to wait out for whoever it was to leave. He did not feel like talking to anyone still. He then crouched down in the bushes and listened to the conversation. So what did he exactly say? Kakashi, said a voice, which Naruto almost recognized immediately as Sasuke's. Naruto growled softly as he listened to another voice speak up, that of his sensei's. Oh, his usual garbage, said Kakashi. Why can't he see that? No one really does care. Like everyone's just trying to lie to him. I mean, he's always been alone. Why can't he just leave the village permanently and leave the rest of us to our own lives? Said a female voice. Naruto's heart began to clench slightly in pain. Were they talking about him? He then tried to strain his hearing more as he listened to Sakura's words. He's a monster, plain and simple, that Naruto. No one could love him, why would anyone want to anyway? That had just confirmed it, they were talking about him. Naruto bit on his lip tightly as he curled his knees closer to his chest, trying to fight back the pain that was slowly coming back to him. Hadn't they done enough to him? He had almost died that Bayo. He had just started to heal also finally, had begun to forgive them for what they had done. It seemed not enough, no one wanted the blonde around, he had been right all along. He's such a doby, I bet he's having another pity party at his home right now, oh poor me. I'm going to have a heart attack. Someone just put me out of my misery, said Sasuke, making the others all laugh at his impression of Naruto. Naruto had enough, he had had it. He was going to put an end to this. Suddenly Naruto got onto all fours, releasing some of the Kyuubi's power. He was going to make them pay for the pain that they had inflicted on him. This was like committing murder. The Kyuubi cloak began to form around Naruto, giving him a fox-like appearance. Two blood-red tails made of chakra formed behind him. He then suddenly let out a huge blood-curdling roar, which shocked the three people standing there. They had not been expecting someone to actually be there spying on the small group of three. Naruto then charged out of the bush and skidded to a halt about 5 feet in front of him. Fangs jutted out of Naruto's mouth, as he gave the deadliest glare that one could imagine. Naruto? Stuttered Sakura in shock, a frightened look on her face as she saw him standing there. What the hell's your problem, Dobi? Said Sasuke. Kakashi just remained quiet and watched Naruto carefully, ready to stop Naruto at a given moment. Shut up, roared Naruto, his voice not sounding himself, I've had it. With all of you. I thought you were my friends, but I found out the truth. You never gave a fuck about anything but yourselves. I'm going to make you all pay now. Snarled Naruto as he gave them each a look, making sure they didn't try anything stupid. Naruto, calm down. What do you mean we don't care? Of course we care about you, said Kakashi, trying to take a step forward towards the boy. Naruto snarled at Kakashi, which made him take a step back slightly. Oh yeah? Then how come you were making fun of me, saying I'm a monster? No one would care about me if I left the village. Hissed Naruto. Naruto snapped after saying this and lunged at the closest person he could find, which happened to be Kakashi. The other two were shocked when Naruto had confessed to spying on their conversation. Quickly though they took a fighting stance as Naruto started charging after Kakashi. Sasuke's Sharingan immediately snapped on without even having to make a hand seal. Kakashi tried to dodge Naruto's swinging punch that came at him as the Kyuubified Naruto came close enough. But Naruto was too fast for Kakashi. After a few more dodges, the boy had managed to swing one of his tails at Kakashi, ripping a wound across Kakashi's stomach, sending the man crashing a few feet away from Naruto. Already 3 tails had formed, and Kakashi shouted, Sasuke, Sakura, you have to knock Naruto out before the 4th tail forms, or it's over for all 3 of us. Though Kakashi was in a lot of pain, seeing the Kyuubi's chakra was now leaking into the wound, making it hard for the silver-haired Junin to move. Naruto, Kyuubi growled as he turned his blood-red slitted gaze towards the two that had tried to surround him, tails twitching every once in a while. His bloodlust and lust for revenge on his former comrades was what was driving him, as well as Kyuubi's power. So far one enemy was down, now it was the other two's turn. Sasuke attempted to pull out his Kusunagi from his belt and also get Naruto to look into his eyes, knowing that his Sharingan would be able to control Kyuubi if he could only just get Naruto hypnotized. Naruto, please calm down, we didn't mean to hurt you, honestly, if we had known, all this time, this wouldn't have happened, said Sakura. She didn't want to have to fight her friend, but the situation was getting worse by the moment. It wouldn't be long before Naruto's 4th tail appeared. Lies, roared Naruto in his demonic-like voice, as he turned to glare at Sakura. His back was turned to Sasuke. I remember, too well, all those years of abuse from you. Everything you said to me. You encouraged me to find Sasuke. I did that for you unselfishly. Naruto seemed very much distracted now as he began to remember the pains he had gone through for Sakura, just to make her happy. It was all lies. As you said, no one will love me, not even you, or anyone in this fucked up village. Snarled Naruto as he got ready to pounce on Sakura. Suddenly Naruto felt someone behind him and immediately lashed out a tail at the approaching Sasuke, who had been trying to use his Chidori to just wound Naruto enough that he would slip back into his normal form. Sasuke was sent back flying. A severe wound to his chest and arm was the product of that swinging. Sasuke coughed blood and remained still. Sakura screamed Sasuke's name briefly before she felt Naruto's blood rage take on another notch. Two down, one more to go, growled Naruto as he took a step towards Sakura. Naruto then took notice of something. He stopped his approach. Sakura? He noticed the difference in her, or at least Kyuubi was telling him this inside of his mind. What exactly was it that made Naruto pause? Naruto then suddenly growled, "Gomen, Nasai." And without another word, he rushed off into the bushes, never to be seen perhaps by Sakura or his team for a long time. He couldn't hurt her, not while that thing was inside her. It was Sasuke's. He definitely had been too late. He continued running on his hands and knees, at inhumanly fast speeds for the nearest gate of the village, still in his Kyuubi form. Much to the shocked villagers that watched the boy run past them. He could not go back, not now, not ever, not after almost killing his former sensei and friends. They would hunt him down probably and want to kill him. His entire future was destroyed now. He had no home and was now probably in Yukonen, and Tsunade would have no choice but to send hunter shinobi after him. As he ran deep into the forests outside of Konohagakure, he once in a while looked behind him, wondering if someone was following him or not, trying to make him come back. He would not go back. Slowly he brought his pace down and stopped somewhere near a river. Looking down at his reflection, all he could see was the monster that was him. "They are right, I am a monster, look at me," he said with a soft whimper. His body slowly began to revert back to his normal self as he sat there next to the water. As soon as his body was fully back to normal, he let out an anguished cry. Tears began to run down his whiskered cheeks as he let the emotional pain out. He was unloved, he had to remain alone, no one wanted him. This all ran into his mind as he sobbed. Falling to the ground in a curled-up ball of misery, Naruto cried himself to sleep. "Tsunade-sama," shouted Shizune, as Tsunade managed to finally get a moment's peace and quiet and was about to have a small sip of sake before her former student came rushing in like a banshee. "What?" shouted Tsunade as she sat up straight, hiding her bottle of sake from Shizune's view. "I have bad news. Team 8 found Team 7's Sasuke Uchiha and Kakashi Hitaki badly injured in one of the training grounds. Sakura Haruno was there too, trying to heal Sasuke's and Kakashi's wounds. Apparently Naruto Uzumaki attacked them." "What? How? Grr, they must have trigged his Kyuubi powers or something. That's the only explanation for this. I'm going to turn those three into stew when I'm through with them," growled Tsunade angrily. Suddenly an Anbu came rushing in. Tsunade immediately recognized the mask as Tenten's Hokage-sama. "There's a report at the west gate. They saw Naruto-kun running out of the village like a bat out of hell, in his Kyuubi form. I think Naruto has abandoned the village," said Tenten. Tsunade was now livid with anger and rage at the three that had been the focus of Naruto's distraught and depression. It was bad enough she had so much medical duties to catch up on at the hospital. Also the Kigemaru heiress was due soon, she had to deal with that. Oh, she wished Jiraiya had not left the village at a time like this. Really, she had wished this. Tsunade then shouted, "All right, thank you Clouded Leopard, Shinzune. Go and have the Baka's wounds treated, and as for Sakura, place her under house arrest. I don't give a damn what condition she is in, 3 months, 4 months pregnant, I don't care. Just put her, Kakashi and Sasuke all under house arrest. They are not to leave their homes at all. Clouded Leopard, go form a squad of Anbu, and go find Naruto, bring him back alive. I want to question him about this. When you see him, tell him he's not going to be executed for what he did. Just bring him back at all costs." Tenten gave a brief nod of her masked face and said, "Hi." Shizune nodded and quickly disappeared out the door, as well as Tenten. Tsunade got up and grabbed her chair and flung it out the window, shattering glass and such. Her rage was now at the boiling level in her blood. She could not believe how foolish those three had been. She should have had Naruto placed with another team, the moment these problems started arising. Now she was too late. The boy, that she had treated like her own child, her own grandson for this matter, had taken off, and was probably now a missing nin in the eyes of this village, not to mention he betrayed the village by attacking Sasuke, Kakashi and Sakura. The council would probably take the Uchiha's side too in the whole thing, and not actually listen to what Tsunade believed in. "Naruto, why did you attack your former team? Were you in that much pain? Did they make you more in pain?" she muttered to herself as she looked out at the now darkening sky. It was going to rain now. This was not a good omen. A knock on her office door came, and Tsunade shouted, "Come in." A couple walked into the office, and Tsunade turned and realized who it was, the Kigemaru Akamichi and Choji Akamichi standing there. Hato holding a bundle in her arms. "Hokage-sama, did we come at a bad time?" asked Choji, curious about why the Hokage's window was now broken. Tsunade put on a fake smile and said, "Everything is fine, Choji, Hato, I assume you are here for the weekly checkup of little Choden there." Hato gave a brief nod of her head. Hato had gone into labor during the time Naruto had been in the hospital after he had awoken and such. But the Kigemaru knew something was wrong, she could read it in their Hokage's golden eyes. The Hokage looked like she was trying to hide something from them, but Hato would let it pass for now. "Well, come with me to another room, I'll have to have someone fix the window." Tsunade tried to cheer up a little, she had a duty as a medical ninja to do right now. Naruto's safety and future would have to wait for the moment. Hopefully Tenten would have people that Tsunade could trust to bring back Naruto alive. This was the only thing she could hope for. Naruto traveled for 3 days after the incident, alone. He had tread through mud and rain, and had managed to somehow get himself to a small village on the border to the land of fire in Star Village. Thank God he had remembered to bring his little froggy purse. He had been saving a lot of his Ryu for missions, seeing all he needed to do was buy ramen and sometimes new ninja tools. At least now, he could hopefully find a place to hide out for a while. He had no idea he was heading for Hoshigakure, he had just known that he had to get as far out of the land of fire as possible. "First things first, I'll check into an inn, and then go from there. I'll have to buy some things if I'm going to be roughing it out there, and this village looks pretty okay to me," said Naruto cheerfully to himself. Who needed Konoha anyway? Not Uzumaki Naruto, not anymore. He was done and over with the land of fire. All they had ever done was treat him like garbage. He patted his frog purse and murmured to it, "I'm so glad I remembered bringing you Gama-chan. It's so nice to see you so bloated and full of money, haha." Already Naruto felt better, he was out on his own, and he would perhaps travel the world a little and avoid his former life by not going to Sunagakure or back to Konohagakure. There was no way at all, even if they dragged him back, he wouldn't go, and he would just escape. This was going to be easy for him. After checking in for the night at a cheap inn, Naruto went and gathered the things he would need to be camping out in the wild, whenever he could not afford an inn. Eventually he would have to find small odd jobs on his travels, but he knew that would be easy. He even bought himself a few new changes of clothing, black pants and gray tops. They would be looking for someone with orange and black outfits, so Naruto would make sure they wouldn't recognize him by changing his style of clothing. After getting himself dinner, he settled down in his bed in the inn, and looked up at the ceiling. Thinking about things of the past, how he had been so brave in front of those he had called his friends. He probably would miss Shikamaru, Choji, Hato most of all, maybe Lee too and his team, Hinata's team, but one team he would never miss was his own. Suddenly tears sprang to his blue eyes. Quickly he forced himself not to cry. Shinobi don't cry. And Uzumaki Naruto would not cry anymore. Not for them, they were the ones who did this to him, and he hoped they suffered the most for it. A small smirk appeared on the blonde's face. "Hey Kit, so you feel better, even though you abandoned Konohagakure, huh? You got a lot of guts, I'm proud of you. You taught that silver-haired guy and Sasuke a lesson, that you're the strongest of that group. Hey, that entire village is going to be looking for you. I know that. Hey, you know something Kyuubi, you're right for once, I never needed them, why should I need them? They wanted to treat me like garbage, that's fine, all I had to do was just leave the village, and now the depression is all gone now. It's just me and you now Kyuubi, and the rest of the world," thought Naruto to the fox with a smile on his face. "I never liked any of them, well except the white-eyed ones, and the girl with the buns on her head, and maybe that violet-eyed girl that had a kid. Kit, you'll find someone better than that pink-haired brat, trust me on this. She probably would have gone to Sasuke anyway even if she had been with you. Yeah, anyway Fox, I need to get some sleep. Our first stop is going to be Hoshigakure, village hidden among the stars. I want to see if an old friend of mine finally became Hoshikage there. Alright Kit, sweet dreams." The fox was finally starting to like Naruto more and more it seemed. Naruto closed his eyes and started drifting off to sleep, and suddenly began to start dreaming about a beautiful milk chocolate brown-haired girl. with the most beautiful of sepia brown eyes he had ever seen. She had been ordered by the Hoshikage to check out the borders to their lands. She was one of Hoshigaku's greatest Junin-ranked ninja, and even at the tender age of 18 now, was a very beautiful sight to behold. Her beauty could distract any enemy male ninja, at any given point. Her name was Yoshida Kushina, of the Yoshida clan, or what was left of it. Her clan were a very odd and rare breed of ninja that had made their home in the land of the stars. No one, in the entire shinobi world, could do the extraordinary things that the Yoshida could. They were gifted with the abilities to combine all of the 5 elemental type chakras, earth, fire, water, wind and lightning, and use all 5 of these types to perform different elemental-based jutsus. This was far from being a Kekkei Genkei, of course. This was a totally different uniqueness. Kushina was the last of the Yoshida, her mother and father having died in the many battles during the Akatsuki War with Konoha and Sanagakure. Hoshigakure had been hit badly too, many of the star ninja had died. Kushina being the lucky one, she had killed many of the rain ninja that were under Pain's control and earned her title of Junin. Kushina suddenly heard the rustling of the bushes underneath her as she had taken a break in a tree just near the borders of her land and that of Land of Fire. Immediately she pulled a kunai blade and waited. Someone had tried to enter the Star Village's territory. She would have to dispense with them as quickly as she could. She watched as a blonde-haired man, with what looked to be no Hite-8 headband on his forehead, walking into her line of view, mumbling. "Damn it, I know that village is here somewhere. Gods, I wish Hyuga was here with me. He would remember where to go. This map I bought should have helped me." Kushina frowned. The poor man was just lost, probably a tradesman that wanted to visit the Star Village to trade stuff. The thing about Kushina was that she always took pity on those that needed help. She had never totally lost all her emotions over the years of being a kunoichi of the Star Village. She spoke up cheerfully enough not to scare the man, as she tried to come into his line of sight. Sir, maybe I can help you find where you're looking to go if you wish." This guy looked around her age, judging by his face. She looked into those eyes that were now looking into her sepia eyes. Those eyes looked like they had suffered through great pain and depression. At least Kushina could read this from those, what she called beautiful cerulean blue eyes. The man spoke up. "Nay? You're going to help me? That would be nice. Wait, come closer a second." The man pointed up at the girl as he looked at her. Kushina hopped down off the tree and came closer to the blonde-haired man. Suddenly the man pointed at her headband and shouted. "You're a Hoshi Nen. Cool. Can you help me out by telling me who is your Hoshikage right now first of all, and then help me get to Hoshigakure? I have a message I need to bring to your Hoshikage." The man certainly seemed hyper, but he was really cute in Kushina's eyes. Kushina then went into detail who was the current Hoshikage at the moment. Insert name of that boy that they mentioned in the Star Village arc in the original series. Can't remember his name. "Sure, I can take you to Hoshigakure. I'm almost done my border patrol anyway, and someone will be here to replace me. My name is Yoshida Kushina. What's yours?" asked Kushina very politely as she bowed her head a little. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. I once visited your village when I was 12 years old. Perhaps you remember me," said the blonde-haired, blue-eyed man as he gave her a thumbs up. Kushina's eyes widened when that name was spoken. Indeed, she had remembered her village mentioning his name many times on occasion, in the last 5 years or so. She could not believe this man was him. The one that had saved her village from the deadly meteorite and from their last corrupted leader. "Wow!" shouted Kushina. "I can't believe it, you're him. You're Uzumaki Naruto. You saved my village, of course. I will bring you right away to my leader. He will be most happy to see you again." Kushina was excited to meet someone as famous as Naruto. No, this was a privilege. Naruto chuckled at how hyper Kushina was being in front of him. "Haha, so you have heard of me, that's great. It's nice to know someone remembers what I did for your village." Kushina nodded. "Of course, how can we forget something like that? You saved us from dying off, taught us that we were already strong enough without that meteorite. So yeah, I'll take you as quickly as I can to my village. Please, Naruto-san, follow me." Kushina then quickly started walking off in the direction of her village, leading Naruto to Hoshigakure as quickly as she could. It only took another day to get to Hoshigakure from where they were, but the trip had been nice indeed. And a mere 1 hour to be seen by the Hoshigakure leader. Many of the villagers looked at Naruto as if he was a hero. Naruto had for some reason felt welcomed here. Unlike in Konohagakure, at least here, they didn't call him a monster. Naruto was sitting beside Kushina, in the waiting area of the Hoshikage's meeting place. The door on the other side of the room opened, and in walked a boy that Naruto recognized almost immediately. No, he was not a boy anymore. He was a man, like Naruto was now. "Long time no see, Naruto-kun," said the Hoshikage. Okay, I'm just going to call him Hoshikage for now, seeing I don't know his name, alright? What does my old friend come here for? Naruto chuckled and quickly gave the Hoshikage a bow of his head and said, "I kind of need a huge favor." Naruto then went into detail of what had happened ever since he departed from Hoshigakure all those years ago, up until just a few weeks or so ago. The Hoshikage and even Kushina were shocked and saddened at how badly Naruto had been abused. The Hoshigakure and even Kushina got up and patted Naruto on the shoulder, while in the case of Kushina, she reached over and patted his shoulder. The Hoshigakure spoke up sternly. "Of course, even if you are a missing nin in their eyes, as your friend, I am obliged to help you, Naruto-kun. You may stay in Hoshigakure as long as you like. As for the hunter shinobi that might come after you, we will turn them away and say that you never came here. I will spread the news of this to the rest of my ninja. As for a job here, for now you can help with some of the villagers, until I find a suitable job for you, Naruto-kun. By the way, what rank did you finally manage to obtain before you left your village?" Naruto then pointed to his Junin jacket that he was wearing, his new gray shirt underneath the Junin jacket. "I managed to get to Junin rank finally, Hoshikage-sama." The Hoshikage was amazed at this. This guy never stopped amazing him. All this time he thought Naruto would never ever pass the rank of genin. A slight smile played upon his lips as he said, "For now just help the villagers. I will have to speak to the rest of the village about appointing you to perhaps ninja duties here, and even granting you citizenship. Kushina here will escort you to the place you will stay at. Of course this might put a strain on the treaty we have with Konohagakure, but it is their fault that they put you in this condition, not ours. Kushina, escort our guest to his new home." "Hi Hoshikage-sama," said Kushina as she slowly got to her feet and bowed her head to him, while adjusting her thigh-length red and brown yukata robe, which at the moment Naruto was sneaking a peek, being his usual slightly perverted self, at one of her creamy long legs at the very moment, before looking away when she looked towards him. "Please follow me, Naruto-san. I will take you to the place you will be staying at," said Kushina. Naruto quickly got to his feet and bowed to his friend and now perhaps his new leader that he would have to deal with while staying here. "Arigato Hoshikage-sama, you will not regret this," said Naruto quietly to the Hoshikage before walking out of the meeting room with Kushina in front of him. Naruto knew this was going to indeed put a big strain on the already fragile relationship between Hoshigakure and Konohagakure, but what could he do? He couldn't just always rough it out as a missing nin. He needed a little stability in his life, and this was the only place he could think of that would accept him as a hero instead of a monster. His heart was already beginning to mend inside of him, at the thought of the Star Village actually wanting him to be here. He felt a slight warm feeling indeed finally take control of his body. Slowly he was beginning to heal now, and that warmth was slowly returning to his touch, to his skin, but it would indeed take a long time to fully and truly heal all the wounds that where his past had given him. A month passes by, and still no one had been able to turn up Naruto. Tsunade had done her best in sending every possible person she could to find the blonde boy. It was like he had disappeared off the face of the earth. Neji's team had gone to the land where the Star Village was supposed to be, and they had been told that Naruto had not come there. Tsunade had a very funny suspicion that they were protecting the young man that she treated like a grandchild, like her own son for that matter, from her, because that village knew who Tenten, Neji and Rock Lee were. Of course they were welcome to stay there for a day but had been restricted to the outer areas of that village. The council had ordered Tsunade to have all Anbu teams give up the search. It was obvious either the boy had died from another heart attack, or just did not want to be found at this moment, knowing his fate would probably be death if he was ever to return. None of Naruto's real friends wanted to give up the search, and Tsunade didn't either, but she had to see reality here. Tsunade publicly called off the search, but secretly had met with Neji's team as well as those who really cared about Naruto, and wanted him to return to the village in a very secluded place in Konoha. She had asked them all to not give up the search. She would disguise these search missions as just regular missions for now. Even Sanagakure did not want Tsunade to give up the search, and had volunteered some of their ninja to help in the search for the blonde Jinchuriki, under the orders of Gaara. But still nothing had come up. Tsunade would not give up hope. Never in her dreams would she give up hope that Naruto would return one day, healed, and hopefully wanting the job of Hokage as he had so many years ago dreamed of achieving. Tsunade was going to have to talk to the Land of Fire's daimyo and force him to consider replacing those on the council with some of the newer people that Tsunade knew would make the right decisions for Konoha, and one of those decisions was to abolish the death penalty for Naruto's behavior against Kakashi and Sasuke. It had been their fault after all, the cause of Naruto's grief, his fleeing the village. So Tsunade had sent a letter to the daimyo, and had received an almost immediate reply that the daimyo would meet with Tsunade and with her alone, to discuss the problems that Konoha was facing at this very moment. Back in Hoshigakure, Naruto loved his new life. Being given the rank of Junin and citizenship right away, at the decision of both the Hoshikage and the land that the Star Village was located in's daimyo. Naruto was now a full-fledged Star Village ninja. So far his missions he had been sent on, were to the smaller places, where he had to assassinate gang members that were causing problems, or kill very extremely dangerous bandits, that only Junin-ranked nins were able to get rid of. These were fun missions. They never bored Naruto, or his new partner, Kushina. Naruto liked Kushina for some reason. She was beautiful and deadly with her elemental-type jutsus. What amazed him was her wind jutsu, called the Razor Windblade technique, Fugen. Reza K's Yeba no Jutsu. He had been dying for her to teach him that jutsu for weeks ever since she had used it to aid him in fighting off a bunch of Class A ranked rogue ninjas, which had trespassed into the Land of Stars. "Hey Kushina, can you teach me your wind jutsu? Pretty please, with ramen on top," shouted Naruto as he and Kushina were resting on a tree log about 30 miles outside of Hoshigakure. Naruto also had wanted to add new wind jutsus to his arsenal ever since finding out about his elemental nature for his chakra. Kushina looked over at Naruto. "I don't know if I should, it's one of my clan's secret jutsus, only I'm allowed to really know it," said Kushina, frowning a little. Naruto pouted. "Aw. Man, I was hoping to show you a cool jutsu of mine." Naruto had never shown his Rasengan yet to Kushina. Perhaps today would be the day he would. "But only in exchange for you teaching me the Razor Windblade jutsu." This intrigued Kushina very much now. What sort of technique did Naruto have, that she would be interested in? Kushina sighed. "Alright, I'll teach you the Razor Windblade jutsu, but only if you show me this new technique of yours afterwards." "Yata!" shouted Naruto happily, and started bouncing around the place a little. Kushina chuckled as she watched Naruto do this, before he finally settled down. Naruto then asked, "So when can we start learning? I can't wait, as soon as we finish this damning mission of ours first," said Kushina, still trying to compose herself after giggling so much at Naruto's antics, though she thought he was cute when he acted like that. "Okay, then let's get this show on the road and finish it quickly," said a slightly hyper Naruto as he jumped to his feet and started walking off towards where their mission goal was supposed to be. Kushina sighed and shook her head, and mumbled before following him. "Always so energetic today, Naruto-san. You still must be upset though. What happened to you in Konoha must still hurt a lot." They managed to finish the mission within 24 hours since their conversation. The two of them headed back to Hoshigakure as quickly as they could. Something had been bugging Kushina for the last few days, about Naruto. His eyes looked dead when he wasn't trying to fake being happy. She wasn't stupid. One of her many traits was being able to pick up on something like this. "Naruto-san, can I talk to you? There's something bothering me for the past month and 2 weeks," said Kushina to Naruto, as they walked back into Hoshigakure. "Sure, what's up Kushina?" said Naruto as he stopped to look at her. "Come with me to my place, it's more private there. Our report can wait until tomorrow, the Hoshikage won't mind at all," Kushina explained as she began leading Naruto to her house. Naruto tried to keep up with her pace. They reached her house within 10 minutes. Kushina kicked off her sandals, and placed them at the door as she entered the house. Naruto immediately removed his own shoes and began looking around the house curiously. "Go make yourself at home, in the sitting room, Naruto-san," called out Kushina, as Kushina went into a room for a few minutes. Naruto just headed for the sitting room and found a chair to sit down on and waited patiently for Kushina to return. He didn't have to wait long. "So Kushina, what is it you wanted to talk about to me?" asked Naruto as Kushina tried to sit down in front of him. She had a stern look on her face as she pushed back her long ponytail. "Alright, now Naruto-san, I know that you're still in pain, now I want you to tell me everything that happened. Why the hell would your own people, your own village want to try and kill you? I know that isn't the full truth." Naruto looked at Kushina with shock on his face, at how blunt she had been. This wasn't leaving him much room to protest by the look of it. Naruto rubbed the back of his head with a hand, giving her a sad sheepish look, as he finally spoke up. "You really want to know the real truth? What I said is partially the truth." He then began his story from the beginning, telling her his secret, that he was the carrier of the nine-tailed fox inside of him. Everything that the third Hokage told him long ago, when he was a small boy, whom he had forgotten until he was about 12 years old. Kushina was shocked at all this. Her jaw was almost hanging agape as she listened. He even told her that his village had been sworn to secrecy not to tell anyone else about what had been locked up inside of him. Naruto looked ready to cry as he then told how painful it had been for him to be so alone, shunned by everyone. He then told her about his adventures when he became a genin, that he had been the lowest in the class, next to someone he had thought was his friend, and had saved that friend 3 years after he had left the village. Naruto had done this unselfishly for his teammate, Sakura. He was in tears after finishing his story to the part where he had suffered a heart attack. "So, you see, my entire life has been nothing but pain. I almost died twice, because of this incident. And now I know no one in this entire shinobi world cares or gives a damn about me." He tried to hide his face from Kushina as he wiped at his tears quickly. "So, I gave up my dreams, just to make them happy. They won't have to see me again, ever?" Kushina's heart felt like it was about to shatter into a million pieces at this point. She couldn't bear to hear any more of his story. She got up and walked over to Naruto and knelt down in front of him, reaching up to touch his whiskered cheek. She spoke soothingly to him. "Naruto-san, so what if you were the container of the 9 tails? You're not that beast that destroyed almost your village. And furthermore, you shouldn't care at all what they thought of you. You should have just kept going." Naruto blinked twice, once when Kushina touched his cheek, and the second time because of her words. "Kushina, how can I become a Hokage that the people don't respect?" "Shut up, not another word from you, Naruto. I'm not finished with what I was about to say," shouted Kushina as she practically straddled Naruto's waist and pinned his arms above his head, giving him the deadliest of glares ever mustered. "Ina-chan," mumbled Naruto in shock, but he knew he had better shut up before Kushina hit him or something. "You're not the alone, anymore, Naruto? You have the entire Star Village at your side? We've already had to turn away a few of Konoha's hunter shinobi, because they want to bring you back to Konoha, for some reason, but I know you're not ready to leave here yet, you're not fully healed. They apparently said to give you a message if we saw you. Hoshikage-sama told me to tell you, that if you do return, you'd be welcomed back as their new Hokage, no matter what it was that they did to you. I want to help you, Naruto-san. I know what it's like to be lonely, sometimes called a freak of nature. That pain inside of your heart, it will never die, yes, but you can hide it away, or heal and learn from it, and become stronger. You're a survivor, Naruto-san. I really care about you, and I know I've only known you for a few weeks and 1 month, but I want you to know that there's someone that cares for you." Kushina managed to finally finish saying, staring into those eyes of his, those beautiful eyes that she had always inwardly swooned over ever since she met him. Naruto listened to her words, they were striking home. He then couldn't think of anything else to say but this. "Kushina-chan, you like me? I mean, you like me as in?" He stuttered, his face turning red from blushing. "Hi, I like you in that way, as well as in the friendship-wise," said a now crimson-faced Kushina as she tried to hide her embarrassment and also get up off him. But suddenly she was pulled back down by Naruto's hand grabbing her arm. "Naruto?" She began to stutter but was silenced when Naruto stared into her eyes before finally kissing her right there and right then. Kushina's eyes widened as she was kissed. This had been her first kiss, and it was with this blonde man right in front of her. She let out a soft moan as she pressed herself against Naruto's chest a little, trying to deepen the kiss. Naruto complied and deepened the kiss, allowing a small groan escape his lips. When they pulled away for air, they knew this the beginning of more than just a friendship, but a relationship, which would help heal Naruto's wounds and heart now. And Kushina would be his reason for living, his focus. Naruto was starting to feel way more better, thanks in part to Kushina, always giving him the courage to keep on living. It had already been a year since he had left the Leaf Village to try to mend his broken heart. The Hoshikage had mentioned this to him. Kushina was being a real big help to him, in the months that had passed since they became girlfriend and boyfriend. The two of them were sitting up on the roof of Naruto's house that he had managed to finally obtain through saving his money from ninja missions and such. Kushina was in his lap snuggling close to the blonde Jinchuriki while stargazing. "Naruto-san," Kushina spoke softly as she leaned up to kiss his chin. Naruto looked down at Kushina, and waited for her to speak, giving her a look that said she could go ahead and speak. "Aishiteru Naruto-san," finished Kushina, as she smiled at him. Naruto chuckled at her and leaned down to give her a soft kiss on her forehead. "Aishiteru Kushina-chan." Kushina smiled up at him before looking up at the sky and pointed with a finger. She whispered quietly as she pointed to a particular star that looked yellowish from where they were sitting. "That star, my parents always told me that star there was the star I was born under." Naruto was amazed at this girl. She was an excellent kunoichi, and she knew a lot about things that Naruto had really no interest in until he had met his beloved one. Naruto then asked, "Which one is mine, Kushina-chan?" Kushina looked at Naruto briefly before looking back to the sky and then pointed to a small blue star that was in the sky. She then said, "That one is yours, Naruto-san. It has been in the sky for a long time, ever since you showed up here in Hoshigakure. I wonder if you can see the stars as nicely here as you do in Konohagakure." Kushina then winced, knowing talking about Konohagakure was sort of taboo for her beloved Naruto. "Gomen nasai Naruto-san, I didn't mean to." She was interrupted by Naruto placing out his hand on her knee and heard him speak. "It's alright, Kushina-chan. You can talk about Konohagakure any way you wish. I'm over all that pain and suffering I went through when I was living there. I'm happy here with you and the villagers now. The past can't hurt me anymore." He then gave her a smile after saying this. Squeezing her knee gently, he went back to look up at the sky for a while. "Naruto-san, why don't you just go back to Konohagakure? I mean for a visit, now that you feel better. I mean you must still have friends there. I'm sure they would like to feel a little bit relieved to know their friend is still alive after a year has passed," spoke Kushina. Naruto sighed out loud as he heard her speak this. He had been mentally debating this for the past while since perhaps the Hoshikage had mentioned this. Running a hand through his long spiked blonde hair, that had become longer over the past year, having not had the heart to cut it, it almost looked like a mane now. Suddenly he heard someone speak into his head, the Kyuubi. "The girl is right, you know. You should go back to that village, kid, just for a visit, perhaps they did change." Naruto had been wondering where Kyuubi had disappeared to for the past few months. Apparently he had become dormant while Naruto had busied himself with missions and such. He then thought back to Kyuubi. "Maybe I will. Just for Kushina-chan, and for old time's sake. But would they accept me if I did go back just for a visit? They might just want me to stay gone, who knows, right? Tebyo. Good. As for if they would accept you, only one way to find out," was the only last thing Kyuubi said before going back to sleep. Naruto then finally spoke after having a conversation with Kyuubi. "Hi. I might go back, but only if you come with me, Kushina-chan. You're important to me." "Very important." He then turned to look up at the sky once more. A shooting star whizzed past his view. Naruto gave a small smile as he pointed up to the sky. "There goes another one, Kushina-chan." He wanted to change the subject now. This was turning into a sore subject for him. Kushina blinked and sighed softly before snuggling back into Naruto's arms and nodded. "Hi, Naruto-san." She then stared up at the sky with him for a while. She for some reason knew Naruto was trying to avoid this subject they had been discussing, but she also knew he could not avoid going back to his village for very long. Another month passed by after that night they had discussed Naruto's possible journey back to Konohagakure. Kushina had been sent on a dangerous mission to the Land of Grass, on a special mission. Naruto had been ordered to stay behind instead of going with his partner and had been sent on a ranked mission elsewhere. Naruto had returned as fast as he could, to the Star Village, but Kushina had still not returned yet to the village. He had found this out by asking some of the villagers he got along with. Naruto had decided that he had to go find Kushina, but first thing he would do was go speak to the Hoshikage, and demand that he be sent to find his beloved one. Naruto quickly ran towards the building that the Hoshikage usually had all the ninja meet and receive missions at. He yelled at the top of his lungs, being his usual old self as always. Hoshikage-sama. The door to the room practically almost came flying off its hinges as he opened and slammed the door hard as he ran in. The Hoshikage was a little startled as he had been in the middle of speaking to a genin squad of Hoshi nins. The Hoshikage spoke up. "Naruto, what's wrong? I'm in the middle of a briefing, can this wait?" Naruto shook his head twice and shouted, "No, it can't wait, TTEBYO. Kushina's in trouble, I just got this gut feeling right now." The Hoshikage sighed and looked to the Junin who was in charge of the genin squad. He then spoke up after a moment of silence. "Naruto, I will be with you in a few minutes, please just wait outside, and let me finish with this squad." The Hoshikage gave Naruto a slight pleading look. Naruto grunted and walked out dejectedly and waited outside of the office. He only had to wait another 10 minutes before the genin squad walked out of the office. The Junin spoke up to him as he allowed his team to walk ahead of him. "Hoshikage-sama will see you now." Naruto nodded and he rushed into the office and skidded to a halt in front of the leader of the Star Village. The Hoshikage looked at him as he removed his hat and with a sigh he spoke. "Naruto-kun. I know you're worried about Kushina right now, but she just sent a message by bird to me, and she should have been back by now. Databio. She's in danger, I just know it. Hoshikage, you have to send me there please, I can't lose her," shouted Naruto, interrupting the Hoshikage before he could finish. The Hoshikage's eye twitched slightly in anger, and was about to get up and yell at him, but he had decided he would do something better. He tried to calmly speak to Naruto so that he would understand. "Alright. I'll send you to find her. Her last message she sent to me by bird said she was somewhere in transit between here and the land of grass. So you should be able to find here somewhere in between. Her mission was successful, so she should have been heading back this way." Naruto nodded. "I got it. I can do this by myself, though if Kushina's hurt, you might want to send a medic after me." Without even getting permission to leave, he quickly ran out of the office. Not saying another word, he had a woman to save and so very little time now to waste. As soon as he was ready, he took off quickly. A slight worried look was on his face. He hoped Kushina was alright. "Please be alright, Kushina-chan, hold on, alright?" was his only thought as he rushed past the village entrance, quickly donning his breathing mask so that he could get across the rope bridge that the villagers had decided to build over the canyon that pretty much surrounded and protected the Star Village from invaders. It only took him 2 days to finally catch up to where Kushina was supposedly supposed to be at this time. Naruto could hear someone screaming in pain. The voice was familiar also. Naruto growled, "Kushina." He quickly headed in the direction of the voice. "Kid, I'll lend you some of my power, if you need the help," spoke the voice of Kyuubi inside of Naruto's mind. Naruto was a little startled by Kyuubi's words and quickly scolded the fox. "Why the hell would I do that? You'd just get out of control and I'd end up hurting Kushina. I'll control myself as much as possible, kid. We don't have a lot of time," scolded Kyuubi back. He wanted to actually work with Naruto for once, which confused Naruto more. Naruto grunted and said back to him, "Fine, then lend me your power and we'll work together to save Kushina-chan TT-bayo." Blue eyes began to turn to red slits as the Kyuubi took over Naruto's body for the time being. Naruto hunched over, going down on all fours, fingernails becoming long and sharp like claws. Fangs began to appear as Naruto took the slight form of the fox, 2 tails appearing as he finished transforming. Naruto growled to himself, "Alright. Let's go. Grr, Kushina needs our help." He then quickly rushed in the direction, letting out a loud roar as he charged through the bushes, right into the middle of a battle between about 5 or 6 enemy ninja, having pinned Kushina against a rock outcropping, about to deliver the fatal blow to Kushina, when they struck the Kyuubi's cloak that surrounded Naruto instead. He had startled the hell out of the enemy ninja. They had not been expecting someone to come to Kushina's aid. One of them shouted as Naruto immediately tried to take a stance in front of Kushina, who was trying to fight them off. "What the hell is this thing? Who Naruto snarled as the two tails swished here and about. Your worst nightmare. Uzumaki Naruto TT Bayo. Growled Naruto, Kyuubi. Kushina blinked when she thought she was about to die just then when one of the enemy ninja yelled out in shock at the appearance of her savior. Her eyes widened when she noticed who it exactly was who had shown up, Naruto-san. She was shocked also by his appearance. By the looks of it he had released Kyuubi to come and protect her. Naruto turned slightly to look at her before turning and knocking a flying kunai blade that was directed at him with one of Kyuubi's tails. Naruto growled, his voice was not like him at all when he did that. You messed with the wrong ninja. Bastards, now you're all going to die here. He then ran directly at the enemy ninja, slashing here and there, punching the nins that were in his way. Kushina was shocked at how vicious Naruto was being just for trying to protect her. Naruto. Naruto-san, she murmured. She should be happy that he was willing to come to her rescue. But right now this wasn't right, at all what he was doing. Kushina yelled as he was about to kill the last enemy ninja. Naruto, stop please. You don't have to do that anymore, I'm safe. Onegai, please stop. Tears began to well up in her eyes as she managed to finally bring him out of whatever it was that was controlling him. Suddenly as she was about to get close to him, he turned quickly around and pretty much slammed her into a tree, none too gently either. Kushina, growled Naruto, Kyuubi. Kushina winced in pain as she felt his claws dig into her skin a little, the cloak disappearing almost immediately. But Kyuubi apparently still had control over Naruto's body. Kushina opened one of her dark sepia eyes to look at him. His eyes were still red and slitted at the moment. Naruto-kun, please, you're hurting me. I'm not letting you go. The kid's busy at the moment, I want to do something. Said Naruto. This wasn't his voice at all, it was the fox's apparently. Kyuubi, Naruto then bent their head down and bit Kushina hard on the shoulder. Kushina yelped in pain and bit back a sob. Why was Naruto doing this to her? Didn't he? Wait, was that a love bite that the fox who was controlling Naruto right now just gave her? She suddenly had a plan to wake Naruto up from this situation. She grabbed Naruto's collar and pulled him closer to her and began kissing him on the lips, and everywhere else she tried to get at. That love bite somehow had began making her quite frisky at this moment. Her hands wandered all over Naruto's body as she kissed him. She could feel him respond back to her as she continued to kiss him hungrily. Oh Naruto-kun. Please, please make me yours totally. She murmured heatedly into his ear. Kyuubi, Naruto then growled and began to purr as she bit into his shoulder in return. Naruto hissed, I'll make you mine alright. He then began running his claw-like fingers down her arms, carefully so that he didn't cut her. Kushina moaned and buried her head into his shoulder as he touched her everywhere with those fingers. Naru. Please, just take me. I can't wait this long, please Onegai just take me. She murmured incoherently at him. Lust was controlling her at this very moment. Kyuubi, Naruto grunted, and began to make a sort of murring sound. Not yet. Kushina, you're not prepared yet. Kushina eyed Naruto. She could see that she needed to go all the way with Naruto it would seem. She then began to remove her short red yukata robe. She watched as Naruto's slitted eyes dilated as she revealed her rather large breasts to him as she stripped. One could think they were almost the size of Tsunade's, or almost. I hope this will get him out of that now, though in reality I really want this badly just as much as Kyuubi does, damn perverted fox. Thought a lusty Kushina. She then managed to remove all of her clothing and strutted towards a now hardened Naruto. She reached out and began to remove his Junin vest carefully. Kyuubi must be letting her do the seducing or Naruto was finally gaining control back over the demon. As she got the vest off, her wrist was grabbed. I'll do it. Said a now back to normal Naruto. Kushina was so glad now that Naruto was back to himself again. Naruto-kun. We don't have to continue if you don't want to. She was interrupted by a finger on her lips, and that cute smile of his that she came to know as only she was rewarded with. Kushina-chan. I want this just as much as you do, stupid perverted fox. If I hadn't gained back control, he probably would have raped you by now. Besides, I don't think my little friend here can hold on for very much longer. He chuckled after pressing his hardened self against her thigh as he hugged her to him. Kushina blushed at how hard he had become. He must be pretty big, size-wise I mean. I hope that it can fit in me. I'm still a virgin. Her thoughts were interrupted as Naruto began kissing the space between where her neck and shoulder met. She let out a soft moan. She loved these kisses he was giving her. Naruto smirked at her as he heard her soft moan, and continued to kiss her shoulder and neck, every so often nipping and licking at certain sensitive spots on her neck. He was a virgin too, but he figured he knew what he was doing. He felt Kushina clutch at his jacket, and immediately he stopped and bent down to kiss her passionately on the lips, while also trying to remove his shirt and undo his pants. Kushina watched him and attempted to help her beloved one, as best as she could while still being pinned against the tree that Naruto, Kyuubi had done. Once his shirt and pants were off, she reached out to stroke her fingers carefully against his collarbones and chest. He was well toned, probably from all those years of training and battling perhaps. She then buried her head into his shoulder, suddenly very shy. She whispered, "Naruto-san, please, be gentle with me." She was embarrassed to admit that she was a virgin even at her age. She probably had spent most of her teenage years on her training, and not on going gaga for guys. "Remind you of anyone?" Naruto chuckled, and brushing his thumb against her lips, he whispered back. "Don't worry, I'm in the same boat as you, sort of. I'll take my time with you." She knew she could trust him now when he said this. All her doubts began to melt as she felt his mouth go lower to her breasts. She could hear him mumbling, "God, these are as big as the old lady's almost." Kushina's cheeks began to blush even more at the compliment. She let out another moan as she felt his warm mouth surround one of her nipples, while also feeling one of his hands play with the other gently. Naruto was enjoying this too much, but he knew that she was begging for it. She wanted him badly enough. He wouldn't keep her too much longer with the foreplay. Judging how painful the throbbing in his crotch was right now, he would have to take her, then switched to the other breast and gave it as much attention as he could before slipping his hand below her waist and began gently rubbing her where she wanted it very much so. Kushina let out another loud moan as her breast and now her womanhood was teased with either his hand or his mouth, in regards to her breast being played with. She tried to reach down below his waist and began stroking his manhood gently with her left hand, and was rewarded with a low moan coming from her beloved one's mouth. "Kushina-chan," said a breathless Naruto. Kushina looked up at him when he called her name like that. She must have been doing a good job for him to be moaning like that. She then continued to stroke him gently, listening to Naruto's pants and soft groans as she continued to do this. Naruto grunted as his eyes screwed into a grimace of ecstasy. God, she was good at this. But he couldn't allow her to continue, or he would explode in her hand. Quickly, yet gently, he grabbed her wrist that was holding his throbbing manhood. "Kushina-chan, if you keep doing that." He didn't get to finish because Kushina silenced him with a rough, passionate kiss on the mouth. Kushina, after what felt like an eternity of kissing Naruto, she pulled away and breathed. "Enough of this. Please, Naruto-san, take me now." Naruto looked at Kushina for a minute, raising an eyebrow. She was begging for it now? Well, he couldn't really resist that pleading look she was giving him. Naruto then pulled Kushina into a hug and kissed her soundly on the mouth before commanding her to lay down. Kushina did as she was ordered and looked up at him, watching him stare down at her briefly before he kneeled down and positioned himself at her entrance while also trying to pull her closer to him. He then spoke, "Kushina-chan, are you sure about this now?" He wanted to make sure she was okay with this, and wasn't going to get angry at him for deflowering her and that. Kushina looked at him and nodded her head, giving him a reassuring smile of encouragement. When he saw that smile, that was all he needed to know before, saying, before he entered her, "Brace yourself, I guess." Kushina winced slightly in pain. The pain felt bearable for her, it seemed, and she thought it was going to hurt. She then pulled Naruto down for a kiss when she felt him still inside of her. He was watching her facial features. She was in pain, but she would not let that bother her. She could bear this, just a little. Naruto then slowly thrusted twice into her. He heard her moan softly. He let out his own grunt of approval as he then continued thrusting inside of her. Finally he found his rhythm and began to slowly pick up his pace. Kushina let out another moan. As she felt him pick up the pace, she was glad for this too. She didn't know if she could bear any more of this. She then hooked both of her legs around his waist, giving him a better chance to go deeper. She let out a gasp as she buried her head into his neck. "Naruto-san, please don't stop. Kami, don't stop." She could hear his breathing become ragged as he pushed himself further into her. She cried out and arched her back almost entirely off the ground. Naruto smirked and then leaned down to nibble on her shoulder, before biting it, marking her as his. He then whispered into her ear as he began thrusting harder into her. "You're mine, Kushina-chan." He said this between pants. "From now on, no one is ever going to take you away from me. Believe it." He smirked again and suddenly let out a groan as he felt Kushina bite his left shoulder hard, in reply to that. Kushina was loving every moment of this. He was filling her up, and completing her with every thrust into her body. She then reached around them to squeeze his backside gently. She could feel herself on the verge of her climax. She knew this because she could feel this tightness in her belly and also a heat beginning to pool there also. Kushina then moaned out loud. "Naruto. Faster, harder please. I'm going to, soon." She panted, trying to encourage him to go faster and harder into her. She didn't care if she would be sore later. Right now she was enjoying this, and judging by Naruto's flushed whiskered face, he was too. Naruto nodded his head and pulling her closer to him, as best as he could, he began to go as fast and as hard as he could. His own climax was soon approaching. Suddenly he felt her inner walls clench him tightly like a vice. "Oh Naruto!" screamed Kushina in pleasure, as she climaxed. Naruto heard the scream and pretty much was brought over the edge, moaning loudly as his own orgasm came with an explosive force. He called out Kushina's name during the whole thing. Sweat began to drip off both of their bodies, as they shook with the aftermath of their love-making. Naruto then collapsed on top of Kushina, and pressed his lips to hers, in a gentle kiss, trying to also catch his breath. Gently he also pulled himself out of her. Kushina opened her sepia eyes to look at him and gave him a contented yet tired smile. She then whispered to him, "Aishiteru Naruto koi." Naruto was a little shocked at her calling him that, but he guessed he could get used to it. He then gave her one of his cute fox-like smiles and whispered huskily back before rolling off her and pulling her close against his hardened chest. Aishiteru Kushina koi. Sleep was rewarded for the couple, knowing that the act they had just committed had brought their relationship to the next level.